Chapter 701. Yu Hong sneered at Tan Xiu's words. She had lived in Changxi for so many years. Although her Yu family wasn't one of the top families in Changxi, it was at least ranked in the middle. So, she naturally understood the thoughts of the younger generation. This farce was related to the faces of the two families. Even if Ji Mu was full of arrogance, he probably wouldn't do something that would make both families lose face. At first, she had a good impression of Tan Xiu. After all, he was the man her good sister liked. But now it seemed that this guy was just a guy who couldn't figure out the situation and kept running his mouth off. The most important thing was that he dared to bet with her, which was simply asking for humiliation. At the entrance of the restaurant, Ren Ran Ran had an expectant look on her face, but in her heart, she firmly believed that Ji Mu wouldn't refuse her. Under the instigation of her good sister, this was a risky move. She liked Ji Mu and even had a deep affection for him. But she also knew that Ji Mu should only have a good impression of her before, and it hadn't risen to the level of liking and love. Ji Mu, you know my character. I used to hate this kind of trick of family marriage the most. But ever since you sent me to the hospital when I was sick 3 years ago, I found myself liking you. The longer time passed, the deeper my feelings for you became. My feelings for you are very pure, not mixed with any factor of your identity. I, Ran, like you as a person. Even if you have nothing, I'm willing to follow you with all my heart. Promise me, don't marry me. Ji Mu frowned, looking at Ran with eyes full of anger. Child? Is this a bargaining chip? She was using his and her identity to force him in front of everyone? Ji Mu sneered inwardly and took out a cigarette under the watchful eyes of everyone. He didn't want to hurt Ran, but he also didn't want to be forced. If it were a few days ago, he might have temporarily agreed due to the pressure of their identities. But now, Ran, I used to think that you were a very smart woman. At least, after that incident, you didn't pester me. Even if we could continue our relationship step by step like before, I would also like you. But what you did today was very stupid. Are you threatening me with a child? You're threatening me with the status of our two families in Changxi. I, Ji Mu, am not a person who treats feelings as child's play. If there really are feelings between us, you don't need to force me. I will take the initiative to court you and promise you a lifetime of happiness. But now, I refuse. Ran was dumbfounded. Never in her wildest dreams did she expect that Ji Mu's reaction would be so intense. He even hated her behavior so much. Was it wrong? Was it wrong to love him? She had given her body to him. She had really impregnated his child. Why? Why didn't they care about the reputation of the two families and rejected him so heartlessly? Tears dripped down like beads from a broken necklace. Ran desperately shook her head. The hand holding the microphone was trembling as she loudly said, Ji Mu, I didn't force you or threaten you. I just want you to know that I really love you. For you, I, Ran, am willing to throw away all the modesty of a girl and throw away that reputation. I just want to be with you. Sorry. Ji Mu shook his head indifferently. Second floor window. Yu Hong was tongue-tied as she looked at the scene. She had a big brain to begin with, yet she couldn't think at this moment. Even when he turned his head to look at Tan Xiu, disbelief was written all over his face. How is this possible? Her voice trembled a bit. Tan Xiu let out an indifferent smile. He already knew that this would be the result. If Ji Mu hadn't obtained an immortal cultivation technique from him, perhaps he wouldn't have the courage to refuse. At least, he would have taken the Ji and Ren families' faces into consideration. But now, even if he refused, the elders of the Ji family wouldn't blame him. They wouldn't even dare to blame him. I'm busy for the next month, so I'm afraid I won't be able to enjoy the feast you invited. But Miss Han has a lot of time. If you're willing to fulfill your promise, you can invite her to the feast. Yu Hong opened her mouth. Her face was a bit embarrassed and flushed. She recalled how she despised Tan Xiu when they made the bet just now, and she felt that she was even more ridiculous. Tan Xiu, do you know Ji Mu? An idea suddenly sprouted in Yu Hong's mind and she immediately asked. Tan Xiu didn't conceal it and nodded. I know him. I've met him a few times. Yu Hong was speechless. She originally thought that Tan Xiu didn't know the situation and was just bragging. She didn't expect that he even knew the young master of the Ji family. It seemed that he wasn't bragging when he made the bet with her, but he was really confident. She didn't know the situation and even foolishly despised him. Thinking up to here, Yu Hong wished she could find a hole to burrow into. She really didn't have the face to see anyone. Tan Xiu looked at the tearful Ren Ran below. Suddenly, his expression moved and he looked at Yu Hong again, saying with a smile, "Do you dare to make another bet?" Yu Hong rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu and said with a wry smile, "I've been tricked by you. What else is there to bet? I bet that Ji Mu will go back on his words and accept Ren Ran. Do you believe me?" Tan Xiu lightly smiled. Yu Hong stared blankly for a moment before she rolled her eyes and said, "Are you all right with me? Ji Mu has already sternly refused in public. With his character, how could he possibly go back on his words?" "Then, do you want to bet with him?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile. Yu Hong hesitated for a moment before she gritted her teeth and said, "Fine. If you win, I'll treat you to a feast for 2 months. But if you lose, we'll call it even. Deal?" Tang Xiu let out a mischievous chuckle. He stood up and pressed his hands on the window. He looked down and shouted, "Young Master Ji, when a woman puts down her dignity and pours her heart out to the man she loves, it means that the man has really earned it. Besides, she's pregnant with your child, so shouldn't you have some responsibility as a man? I heard that irresponsible men will have a bad reputation." "That's right. Someone once told me that chopping firewood doesn't delay the sharpening of a knife. Even if you have a lot of other important things, you still have to have a family sooner or later." Below. Upon hearing the familiar voice, Ji Mu suddenly froze. When he looked up and saw Tan Xiu, disbelief filled his eyes. Never did he expect that he would see Tan Xiu here. Immediately after, the awkwardness made him smile wryly inwardly. To think that Tan Xiu would actually see him as the protagonist. It was simply shameful. However, he thought about it and suddenly felt that what Tan Xiu said made sense. Since Ren Ran didn't even want a woman's modesty and dignity, it meant that she had sealed all her escape routes, indicating that her feelings for him were sincere. Chopping firewood doesn't delay the sharpening of a knife. The other things mentioned by Tan Xiu should be referring to cultivation. Having a family at the same time as cultivating would indeed not have any impact on it. Responsibility? Responsibility? Ji Mu's expression constantly changed and he slowly clenched his fists. Ren Ran, on the other hand, was full of gratitude after hearing Tan Xiu's words. She didn't know Tan Xiu, but she secretly decided that regardless of whether Ji Mu would eventually accept her or not, she would still express her gratitude to him. At this moment, in the crowd, a woman in a black leather coat and holding a helmet suddenly stroked the hair on her forehead. She looked up at Tan Xiu and loudly said, "Hey handsome, you're a man with a sense of responsibility since you can say such words. May I ask if you have a girlfriend? If not, why don't you consider me?" The smile on Tan Xiu's face suddenly froze. He scratched the back of his head and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he said, "I'm sorry. I have a good wife at home, so I can't find a bed for her." After that, he directly retracted his head and picked up the teacup with a bit of embarrassment. Han Qingwu didn't speak, but the smile on the corner of her mouth never faded. She couldn't help but burst into laughter when she saw Tan Xiu's slightly embarrassed expression and how he tried to conceal his embarrassment by holding the teacup. Although Tan Xiu had just made a bet with her good sister, Yu Hong, it was, after all, a good deed that made her feel that Tan Xiu had done a good job. Yu Hong, on the other hand, couldn't help but roll her eyes upon hearing Tan Xiu's words. At this moment, she saw her good sister, Han Qingwu, looking at Tan Xiu with eyes that were almost shining. She couldn't help but say, "Tan Xiu, Ji Mu is the young master of the Ji family in Changshi City. He's always had his eyes on the top of his head. Do you think he'll change his mind just because of those superficial words you just said? Dream on. Who knows whether he'll change his mind or not?" Tan Xiu put down the teacup and shrugged as he lightly smiled. At the entrance of the restaurant, Ji Mu's expression was constantly changing. He looked deeply at Ren Ran, whose face was full of tears and expectation. Finally, he sighed secretly and walked a few steps forward. After coming to the front of Ran, he gently wiped the tears on her face and said, I really can't give you a passionate love. But if you're willing, give me 3 days and I'll tell the elders of my family to go to the Ren family to propose marriage. Even if we don't get married for the time being, we can still get engaged first. Love is not a child's play. Give me some time and I'll slowly cultivate it. Ran blinked and tears gushed out of her eyes again. This time, they were not tears of sadness but tears of joy. With an excited look on her face, she nodded and hugged Ji-moo. Then she quickly said, Wait for me. After that, she lifted the hem of her wedding dress and quickly rushed into the restaurant. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, she went to the second floor and came to the front of Tan Xiu, who was sitting by the window. With a sincere and grateful expression, she bowed deeply and said, Thank you very much, sir. I'm Ran of the Ren family. If it weren't for your words today, I'm afraid I would have lost my love and future happiness. This Ran will always remember your kindness. If you need my help in the future, I'll definitely do my best to do it. This girl is good. Tan Xiu secretly nodded inside. Chapter 702. Tan Xiu let out a faint smile and glanced at Yu Hong, whose face was blushing and head was about to drill under the table. He casually nodded and smilingly said, I'm naturally happy to help you achieve your dreams. You don't need to worry about it and just live a good life in the future. At this moment, Ji-moo also came to the second floor. Although Changxi was his turf, he still respectfully spoke to Tan Xiu after standing in front of him. Brother Tang, Ji-moo has learned a lot from your words. I didn't know that you came to Changxi, so I didn't treat you well as a host. I hope you can forgive me. I just came here for a private matter, so please don't be so courteous with me. Tan Xiu waved his hand and said, All right. I've already recognized you as my wife and you're about to have a child. Hurry up and take your wife back to rest. How can I do that? Ji-moo quickly said, Brother Tang, you've come here, so I must treat you to a meal. Also, I'll immediately book a hotel for you if you're staying in Changxi for a few more days. If you're not used to staying in a hotel, I have a villa in Changxi that I haven't lived in before. You can stay there anytime. Everyone in the surroundings was dumbfounded the moment his words came out. Even Ji-moo's friends, who called him brothers, were dumbfounded as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. Even Yu Hong was shocked at this time. Although she knew that her good sister, Han Qingwu, had a crush on a student, she also knew that the student seemed to be quite capable. He had already started his own business and had his own company when he was just a freshman. However, she did not know more than that. But now it seemed. Wasn't this Tan Xiu too amazing? Even the young master of the Ji family in Changxi was so respectful in front of him? How was this possible? Could it be that this Tan Xiu's identity was very noble? Could it be that his family was much more powerful than the Ji family? At the same time, Ran was also dumbfounded. She could tell from Ji-moo's words that not only did he know this young man who helped her, but he was also very respectful toward him. She knew Ji-moo very well. There was absolutely no young man in Changxi who could earn such respect from Ji-moo. Even in the whole province, such a person was as rare as a phoenix feather and a qilin horn. But who was this benefactor in front of him? Who the hell was he? Who could make Ji-moo act so respectfully? Tan Xiu looked at the shocked faces around him and helplessly said, Ji-moo, your woman is pregnant. She just experienced great sorrow and joy, so she needs a good rest to stabilize her pregnancy. Also, I'm just following my friend here to settle some personal matters. I'll be returning to Shanghai tonight. So, you don't have to worry about me. Ji-moo glanced at Ran's belly and hesitated for a moment before replying, All right, then. I'll send her back first. I'll come back to accompany her after I settle her down. Brother Tang, this is Changxi City, and I'm the local tyrant here. I can help you if you encounter any small problems. Are you a dog skin plaster? Tan Xiu said with dissatisfaction. After saying that, he felt that he didn't give Ji-moo any face, so he added, Since you have nothing to do, then come here later. Alright. Ji-moo was a bit embarrassed at first, but Tan Xiu's words immediately made him happy. He grabbed Ran's hand and was about to go downstairs. Looking at their backs, Tan Xiu suddenly said, "I'll give you a big gift after you get married. Remember to inform me when the time comes." Ji Mu halted his pace. His heartbeat sped up a few beats, and he immediately turned around to express his gratitude before leaving with a confused Ren Ran Ran. After this incident, everyone in the restaurant knew that Tan Xiu was a great figure, a super big shot that even the Ji family's young master had to be respectful to. No one dared to come over and strike up a conversation with him, since they were all weighing whether they were qualified or not. At this moment, Yu Hong's mouth was opened so wide that it would not be a problem for her to stuff a duck egg into it. With a shocked expression on her face, it took her a few minutes to sober up as though she had just woken up from a dream. She gulped down her saliva and looked at Han Qingwu, who was eating with her head lowered. She looked restless and asked, "Tang? Tan Xiu, who exactly are you?" "Ji Mu, he's a man full of pride. How come he's like a grandson in front of you?" Tan Xiu rolled his eyes and snappily said with a smile, "You're a great beauty, so you should have some virtue in your mouth. I haven't married a wife yet, and I don't even have a son, so how can I have a grandson? I told you that I've met Ji Mu a few times, and he's my friend." Yu Hong pursed her lips, showing a look of disbelief. Han Qingwu suddenly raised her head and looked at Yu Hong, saying, "Hurry up and eat, Hong Hong. The food has been served for a while, and it's going to get cold if you don't eat it. Let's eat." Yu Hong could see that Tan Xiu didn't want to say it, so she could only suppress the doubt in her heart. Downstairs in the restaurant, Ji Mu sat in the driver's seat of the red Ferrari driven by Ren Ran Ran. After starting the car, it headed to the distance. Ren Ran Ran, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, looked a bit confused despite feeling very satisfied inwardly. She asked, "Ji Mu, that Tang? Who is Mr. Tang? You seem to value him very much?" Ji Mu glanced at Ren Ran Ran and slowly said, "His identity is very special, so I can't tell you now. But keep in mind that you can provoke anyone in this world in the future, but you must never provoke him." "He's very powerful?" Ren Ran Ran asked in horror. A bitter smile appeared on Ji Mu's face as he sighed. "He's more than powerful." They ordered the waiter to clean the table, ordered a pot of tea, and waited for Ji Mu's arrival. In the meantime, Tan Xiu didn't speak much and just quietly listened to Yu Hong and Han Qingwu talking about some interesting things they encountered in life. It wasn't until 2:30 p.m. that Ji Mu hurriedly came back. "We have something to do at 8 p.m., and we haven't figured out where to go in the afternoon. Do you have any suggestions?" asked Tan Xiu. Ji Mu stared blankly for a moment and asked in astonishment, "Are you here to watch the underground boxing match, Brother Tang? You also know about the underground boxing match?" asked Tan Xiu. "I naturally know that the national underground boxing match will be held in Changxi," said Ji Mu with a smile. "Actually, I don't have much time tonight, but because of this underground boxing match, I came out with my friends to have dinner and watch it in the evening." "Then let's go together tonight." Tan Xiu nodded. "Let's arrange our time in the afternoon first." Ji Mu pondered for a moment and asked, "How about going to the Red Pavilion? You can drink tea there and also listen to plays. If you want to watch a concert, there will be one in the afternoon. If the two ladies are willing, I happen to know the manager of the Red Pavilion's beauty area. They can go there for a beauty treatment." "Does the Red Pavilion have a gym?" asked Han Qingwu all of a sudden. "There is a fitness area," said Ji Mu with a nod. "Then let's go there." Han Qingwu said, "That's right, Hong Hong, don't you have something to do in the afternoon? You don't need to accompany us. We'll contact you again after you finish your business." Yu Hong hesitated for a moment before saying, "It's all right. I'll call them later and push the matter aside. Even young Master Ji can spare some time to accompany us, if I were to leave." Han Qingwu didn't want Yu Hong to know that she was going to participate in the underground boxing match, so she said, "There's really no need. You can go first if you have something to do, and we'll contact each other later. I'll feel uncomfortable if you delay your business because of me." Chapter 703. Changxi City was not a first-tier or second-tier city, but the construction and development of southern cities were still very prosperous and prosperous. The entertainment facilities here were not much worse than those in Shanghai. The Red House was a large-scale comprehensive entertainment center with a variety of leisure and entertainment programs. In the fitness area, Han Qingwu had taken off her coat and put on a black vest and sweatpants. Tonight's boxing match was very important to her, so she didn't dare to relax. Her purpose for coming here was to warm up in advance and adjust her body and mind to the best condition. With her current strength, it was not a problem for her to throw a punch of 500 kilograms. She had been trained by the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall and participated in dozens of underground boxing matches, so she could be considered as a seasoned fighter. Standing in front of the dumbbells, her movements were very casual and she didn't even feel strenuous when picking up the heaviest dumbbells. Big Brother Chong, there's a bell here. Her figure is amazing. At the entrance of the fitness area, 2 young men came in with towels. One of them had a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks with sweat on his forehead. After seeing Han Qingwu exercising, his eyes suddenly lit up as he whistled and grinned. Zhou Chong raised his brows. After his eyes lingered on Han Qingwu's body for a few times, he nodded and said, "She's indeed the best. She has a great figure and curves. Chen Shuai, do you want to have a match and see who can take her down today?" Chen Shuai rolled his eyes and snorted, "Match? Do you think I'm a masochist? Every time I play this trick, I lose to you every time. God is so fucking unfair. Why don't they give me a more handsome face?" "Good looks can't be eaten." Zhou Chong laughed and said, "Though most women's first impression is based on their looks, there are also a few who look at their inner qualities. Maybe that bell is the special case I'm talking about? It's 100 yuan. Do you dare to play or not?" Chen Shuai stared blankly for a moment before he frowned and said, "Do you really want to play that big?" Zhou Chong nodded with a smile. Chen Shuai thought for a moment and then said with a reckless expression, "Let's play then. Let's see who's afraid of whom. At worst, I don't want my pocket money for the next few months. Just wait here. I'll definitely win and bring that bell here. Let's wait and see." Zhou Chong crossed his arms and said with a smile. Chen Shuai tidied up his clothes and revealed a confident smile. After coming to Han Qingwu's side, he tried to pretend to be a gentleman and said, "Hey, beauty. Wanna talk?" Han Qingwu glanced at him and then directly treated him as heir. Because of her looks and figure, men often tried to flirt with her. She almost always chose to ignore these lectures. Chen Shuai seemed to have expected such a result and didn't look discouraged. He approached Han Qingwu half a step and whispered, "Beauty, I'm betting with my buddy on whether I can take you down or not. As long as you're willing to put on an act, I'll give you half. How about it?" A look of disgust flashed across Han Qingwu's eyes, but she still did not respond. Chen Shuai frowned and thought for a moment before he quickly said, "I said 100 yuan, but it's actually 1 million yuan. I know I'm not very handsome and very few women would like me. But since I've made the bet, I have to win this time, right? I'll give you 500,000 yuan as long as you're willing to put on an act with me." Scram. Han Qingwu indifferently spat out a word. Chen Shuai's expression froze and he stared blankly at Han Qingwu for a long time. Then, he suppressed his anger and said in a deep voice, "You know Bitao Group in Changshi, right? I'm the son of Bitao Group's chairman, Chen Shuai. As long as you're willing to put on an act with me, I'll give you the 1 million yuan I won." Scram. I don't want to say it for the third time. Han Qingwu coldly said. Chen Shuai was anxious. He didn't expect this woman to be so ungrateful and insatiable. A 1 million yuan play was only a few minutes, yet she didn't even want to give him face. If it weren't for the bet with Zhou Chong, he really wanted to slap this stinky woman. "Don't be so ungrateful. If you offend me to earn a living in Changshi, you won't have a good ending. I'll give you one last chance. If you still don't want to change your mind before I turn around and go to my buddy, then don't blame me for not giving you face later." Having said that, Chen Shuai turned around and left with a heart full of anger. Han Qingwu finally looked at Chen Shuai again and secretly sighed inwardly. There were so many fools in the world. If it weren't for her not wanting to complicate matters, she really wanted to slap this fool's ugly face with the sole of her shoe. Not far away. With a faint smile, Zhou Chong looked at Chen Shuai, who came back alone, and deliberately said with contempt, "It seems that not only your looks are bad, but you also don't have any inner qualities. You must feel bad coming back with your tail between your legs, right? Chen Shui flew into a rage out of shame and cursed in a low voice. That stinky bitch is too damn arrogant. I would have already whipped her to death if she wasn't a woman. Forget it. You can go if you have the ability. Zhou Chong whistled proudly and then came to Han Qingwu's side, saying with a smile, "Thanks a lot, Belle." "Scram," replied Han Qingwu without raising her head. Ugh. The smile on Zhou Chong's face froze and his brain couldn't react for a moment. Something's wrong. According to the script I've calculated, she should have asked me why I thanked her. How come? Zhou Chong was a very thick-skinned person. The embarrassment on his face only lasted for a few seconds before receding like the tide. He raised his hand to touch his nose and said with a dry smile, "It's fate that brought us together, Belle. Don't be so distant. Anyways, let me introduce myself. I'm Zhou Chong, a descendant of the Zhou family in Changxi. Can you do me the honor of having dinner together after you finish working out?" "I don't care if you're a nobody," said Han Qingwu coldly. "Get the hell out of here if you don't want to cause trouble. I have no interest in playboys like you." Never in his wildest dreams did Zhou Chong expect that he would be so ruthlessly rejected. It must be noted that in the past, he relied on his handsome appearance, famous brands, and even the status of his Zhou family in Changxi to pick up girls. But today, what the hell is going on? Zhou Chong wanted to get angry, but he was a man who had tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex and rarely got angry at women. Therefore, he could only suppress his displeasure and walked toward Chen Shui with a livid face. On the other side, Chen Shui was overjoyed to see Zhou Chong come back with an ashen face. His anger toward Han Qingwu also dissipated by a lot. Instead, a sneer appeared on his monkey-like face as he teased, "Oh, young Master Zhou, why did you come back alone with your tail between your legs? Could it be that you, a self-proclaimed grandmaster of picking up chicks, was also chased away by that Belle?" Zhou Chong was so angry that his nose was crooked. In the past, he always hugged a Belle and came back to show off to Chen Shui, only to see Chen Shui's envious and jealous expression. But now, he was teased and ridiculed by Chen Shui, which made his anger toward Han Qingwu even more intense. With a livid face, he didn't talk to Chen Shui. Instead, he turned his head and waved to a nearby attendant. After the attendant came to him, he said, "I'll give you a task. Help me keep an eye on that woman. Wait for her to finish working out and see if she'll leave by herself or if she has a friend here. That's right, don't forget to secretly take some photos of her. It's useful to me." The attendant, who obviously knew Zhou Chong, quickly nodded and said, "Don't worry, young Master Zhou. I'll definitely help you handle it beautifully." Zhou Chong nodded and took out a business card and stuffed it into the attendant's hand. Then, he turned around and left the fitness area. At the tea house, Tan Xiu was drinking tea and reading a book, enjoying a brief moment of tranquility. He didn't speak, and neither did Ji Mu. Although he was a bit bored, he still sat on the chair and silently tried to sense the qi inside his body. Ever since he obtained a cultivation technique, he had spent most of his time sensing the qi inside his body. He wanted to become an expert and a cultivator, so he was willing to work hard. In the blink of an eye, it was already 6 in the evening. Han Qingwu rushed over from the fitness area. Since there was a place to take a shower, she had already washed the sweat off her body and changed back to her original clothes. "Let's go," said Han Qingwu. Looking at the time, Tan Xiu asked, "How long will it take to get to the boxing venue?" "I don't know the specifics." Han Qingwu shook her head and said, "But it's already 6 now, and there are only 2 hours left before the match. As a fighter, I must arrive half an hour earlier." "There's no hurry," Ji Mu quickly said. "It's only a 40-minute drive from the Red House to the Emerald Resort. Miss Han, you've been training for half the afternoon, and you still have to compete in the evening. Do you want to eat something first? I've already told the dining area to prepare it half an hour ago, so we can go there and have a meal." Han Qingwu was a bit hesitant. "Let's go." Tan Xiu got up and said, "Let's go and have a meal, and then we'll have the strength to compete in the evening." At the dining area, Zhou Chong and Chen Shui each hugged a beauty, eating and laughing. Because they were rejected in the afternoon, the two of them called over two girls they used to hang out with in the past to vent their frustrations. Suddenly, Zhou Cheng's cell phone rang. "Who is it?" Zhou Cheng picked up the phone and asked lightly. The voice of the attendant from the afternoon came from the phone. "Young Master Zhou, I'm the attendant of the fitness area, Little Lu. I'm doing what you asked me to do." That beauty went to the tea house after she finished working out. I didn't dare to get too close, so I only saw her meeting with two men. She's now rushing to the dining area. "Got it. I'll reward you later." Zhou Cheng replied indifferently and immediately hung up the phone. A chilling light flashed in his eyes as he pushed the woman in his arms and said, "You eat first. I'll go out and make a call." "Got it." Qin Shui nodded. Suddenly, his expression moved and he hurriedly asked, "Zhou Cheng, did the attendant in the afternoon give you a reply? Remember to call me if there's a good show." Qin Shui hesitated for a moment and said, "Let's go together, then. I want to see who has the ability to subdue that stinky woman." Chapter 704. In the dining area. Both sides of the antique corridor were decorated with red lanterns. The customers coming and going indicated that the business here was very good. The air was filled with the faint fragrance of wine and dishes, arousing the craving of many customers. Tan Xiao and Han Qingwu were not familiar with this place, so Ji Mu led the way. While walking, Ji Mu introduced the specific situation of the Red Pavilion to them. Only then did they understand why the business here was so good. The Red Pavilion's grade was not high, but it was not low either. The middle-class customers liked to come here to spend their money. Even those rich people liked to come here for leisure and entertainment due to the variety of programs here. Private Room 0066. After arriving with the two, Ji Mu pushed the door and said, "Brother Tang, Miss Han, please go inside and wait for a while. I'll arrange something and we'll be back soon." "Alright." Tan Xiao nodded. The antique private room had an area of more than 20 square meters. Aside from tables and chairs, there were also two single sofas and a tea table in the corner. Less than 2 minutes after Tan Xiao and Han Qingwu sat on the sofa, the door was pushed open from the outside. "I heard the feng shui of private room 0066 is good. Let's have dinner here today." With a smile on his face, Zhou Cheng pushed the door and entered. The moment he saw Han Qingwu and Tan Xiao sitting on the sofa in the corner, he immediately pretended to be surprised and said, "It's so strange. How come there are people inside? Also, enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. To think that I bumped into this woman who doesn't give me face." Chen Shui observed Tan Xiao for 3 seconds and found that he didn't know him. He immediately felt relieved and smilingly said, "I thought that a cold and arrogant chick would accompany some kind of amazing man. Never thought that he would be a teenager. Could it be that it's a popular trend nowadays for old cows to eat young grass? Why would they find such a pretty boy to dote on?" Zhou Cheng suppressed his anger and raised his hand to touch his chin. He let out a hollow laugh and said, "You can't judge a book by its cover these days. She looks like a pure and clean fairy, but who knows if she has any special fetishes. What are you two doing here? Did you book this private room? If you aren't, get lost. If you are, I'll contact the front desk and get you a different room." Tan Xiao frowned slightly. He looked at Han Qingwu and asked, "You know him?" Han Qingwu said, "A hooligan who tried to hit on me." Tan Xiao waved his hand and said, "Since they provoked you, throw these two fools out quickly." A smile appeared on Han Qingwu's cold face. Tan Xiao used two idiots to describe them, and she felt that it was really appropriate. After standing up, Han Qingwu asked directly, "Did you guys leave on your own? Or should I throw you out?" Zhou Cheng sneered at Han Qingwu, then looked at Tan Xiao and said, "Kid, be more polite with your words. In Changshi City, there aren't many people who dare to provoke me, Zhou Cheng." Noises. Tan Xiao didn't even bother to look at them anymore. Han Qingwu strode forward and grabbed Zhou Cheng's and Chen Shuai's collars lightning fast. She dashed outside and directly threw them out of the door like throwing garbage. Bim! The door was closed from the inside by Han Qingwu. She then walked back to the sofa and smilingly said, "The world is peaceful now." Outside the door, Zhou Chong and Chen Shui were dizzy from the fall and only managed to crawl up after a while. The battered and exhausted Zhou Chong had a humiliated expression on his face as he fiercely kicked the door of the private room open. Just as he was about to rush in, a figure appeared a few meters away from him. As the figure's footsteps suddenly quickened, Ji Mu directly grabbed Zhou Chong's shoulder and forcefully pulled him back, throwing Zhou Chong a few meters away before he fell heavily on the ground. Zhou Chong was furious and the pain in his body made him furious. He crawled up quickly this time and cursed loudly, ready to fight back. At the side, Chen Shuai's heart sank after he saw Ji Mu. He heard Zhou Chong's cursing and saw that he wanted to fight. He immediately rushed to Zhou Chong's front and blocked him. He directly covered Zhou Chong's mouth with his hand and then turned his head to call out, "Brother Ji, I didn't expect it to be you. Zhou Chong drank a bit too much today and is acting crazy." With a gloomy face, Ji Mu looked at Zhou Chong, who gradually stopped struggling and sneered. "Drinking too much and acting crazy, huh? You want to vent your anger on me?" Zhou Chong was also dumbfounded at this moment. Never did he expect that the one who just threw him out was Ji Mu. He secretly regretted the foul language he just cursed. His expression quickly changed and he apologized in a low voice. "I didn't know it was you just now, Brother Ji. It's just that the man and woman in this private room are too abominable. They even threw us out. You're a great person, so please forgive me." A man and a woman? Threw them out? Ji Mu's heart thumped. He stepped forward to grab Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai's shoulders and pulled them into the private room. Upon seeing Tan Xiu and Han Qingwu sitting on the sofa, he closed the door with his foot and released them, slapping their faces a few times. Brother Ji, Zhou Chong was slapped silly. He raised his hand to touch his burning face with disbelief in his eyes. Chen Shui was also slapped silly. He looked at Ji Mu in a daze, but he didn't dare to resist. Their families were big and powerful, and they were famous young masters of Changxi City. But comparing their families with the Ji family was like comparing the earth to the heavens. They were not on the same level at all. After slapping them, Ji Mu no longer paid attention to them. He cautiously looked at Tan Xiu and Han Qingwu and asked, "Brother Tang, Miss Han, did these two bastards provoke you? Don't be so angry at such a young age." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "These two brats may have foul mouths, but they didn't do anything excessive. They didn't provoke me, but they failed to pursue Han Qingwu, so they flew into a rage out of shame and wanted to put on airs." Ji Mu immediately understood. He was so angry that his 7 orifices were about to emit smoke. Han Qingwu was his honored guest, and she was very likely to be a cultivator. Yet Zhou Chong and Chen Shui, who were full of women, even dared to provoke her. Weren't they courting death? As he thought up to there, he directly turned around and slapped their faces a few more times. Then he turned to Han Qingwu and asked, "Miss Han, you're my honored guest, yet these two bastards are pestering you. It's like slapping my face. If you don't want to deal with them yourself, I'll break their legs to teach them a lesson." Ji Mu, Brother Ji, Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai's complexion drastically changed as they hurriedly called out. At this moment, they finally realized that whether it was Han Qingwu, whom they used to make a bet to strike up a conversation, or that young man, none of them were good people. Even Ji Mu had to be cautious in front of them, which made them realize that they had poked the hornet's nest today and provoked a big trouble. Han Qingwu was not the kind of woman who wouldn't forgive others. She looked at Zhou Chong and Chen Shui, who had been slapped 6 or 7 times, and waved her hand in disgust and said, "Forget it. Just make these two bastards get the hell out of here. Let's hurry up and eat, lest we delay important things." "Alright." Ji Mu raised his hand and slapped their heads again. Then he snappily cursed, "You two bastards. Can't you cause less trouble in the future? How old are you? Why don't you find a wife and live a peaceful life at home? Get the hell out of here. Don't let me see you doing bad things again, else I'll beat you to death." Yes. "We'll get the hell out of here. I'm really sorry, Brother Ji. Miss Han, I'm really sorry. We'll get the hell out of here." Zhou Chong and Chen Shui felt as though they had been pardoned. They nodded and bowed before running away. They couldn't afford to provoke someone who could make Ji Mu pay attention to them. Since the other party didn't pursue this matter, They didn't want to be cleaned up. Revenge? What a joke. What could they do to retaliate? Could it be that they could only helplessly send themselves to be abused? The two of them ran out of the dining area in one breath and then stopped panting. Chen Shui rubbed his burning face and said with a bitter expression, "Damn it, I really didn't check the almanac when I went out today. How could I provoke such a ruthless bastard? Even Ji Mu has to be so careful. What's the origin of these two guys?" Zhou Chang's expression was a bit gloomy, but he was somewhat helpless. Upon hearing Chen Shuai's words, he helplessly said, "He's definitely not from our Changxi, else we would definitely know him. He's a dragon crossing the river, and one with a very deep background." "Don't you have a photo of that woman?" Chen Shui suddenly said. "How about asking someone to inquire about it?" Zhou Chong hesitated for a moment before he nodded silently and said, "I'll ask someone to inquire about it when I go back tonight. We've lost our face today. Let's go. Let's skip dinner." Chen Shui nodded and walked a few steps with Zhou Chong. Then, he suddenly asked, "Are we still going to watch the underground fighting match tonight?" "Yeah, we'll go," said Zhou Chong without hesitation. "But let's find a place to take a bath and change our clothes first. Also, we'll go and get rid of the bad luck." "Alright." Inside the private room 0066. "Miss Han, I know those two guys." Ji Mu forced a wry smile and said, "They're not bad in nature. It's just that they grew up with a golden spoon in their mouths and were spoiled by their families, thus developing their arrogant and domineering personalities. You can rest assured that I'll teach them a good lesson later. I guarantee that they won't run amok again." Han Qingwu didn't take it seriously at all, so she said with a smile, "It's nothing. I'll clean them up if they really go too far." Ji Mu quickly glanced at Tan Xiao and then said with a smile, "Miss Han is broad-minded and a heroine. Let's go to the table. The dishes will be delivered soon. That's right, I didn't order any wine since Miss Han has a match tonight. We'll drink." Han Qingwu waved her hand and said, "Wine is a poison to the intestines, so drink as little as you can," said Tan Xiao with a smile. "Let's eat first. Let's eat quickly and not delay the business." "Alright." Ji Mu found that Tan Xiao didn't have the slightest trace of a silk pants aura from Tan Xiao. Mature, steady, and unfathomable. This was his evaluation of Tan Xiao. Chapter 705. After a simple dinner, the trio rushed to the venue of the underground fighting tournament. Han Qingwu didn't want her good sister to know that she was going to participate in the underground fighting tournament, so she directly turned off her mobile phone. "How many matches will there be in the finals?" Sitting in the back seat, Tan Xiao glanced at Han Qingwu and asked. "There will be 2 matches. The first one will be the semifinals, and the last one will be the championship," answered Han Qingwu. Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Pay attention during the match. Just admit defeat if you can't beat them. Don't throw your life away in the ring for such a trivial match." "I know." Although Han Qingwu replied in such a way, she secretly made up her mind to not lose the match even if she had to risk her life. She couldn't let Tan Xiao despise her. Ji Mu, who was the driver, was surprised and asked, "Miss Han, are you going to participate in the underground fighting tournament? You're also going to be one of the top 4 powerhouses from thousands of underground fighters in the country?" "Yeah." Han Qingwu replied casually with an indifferent expression. Ji Mu was somewhat shocked. This was his first time seeing Han Qingwu. He originally thought that Han Qingwu was just a weak and delicate young woman. He didn't expect that such a terrifying strength was hidden under her delicate appearance. However, after recalling Tan Xiao's identity and the fact that he personally accompanied Han Qingwu, Ji Mu felt relieved. Perhaps Han Qingwu was also a cultivator. Realizing this, Ji Mu suddenly felt that his decision today was very wise. If he could maintain a good relationship with Tan Xiao and smoothly squeeze into his circle, it would definitely bring him a lot of unexpected benefits. It would be better to be Tan Xiao had promised to give him a big gift when he got married. Ji Mu suddenly felt warm inside as he thought of that big gift and was looking forward to it. In the southern suburbs of Changxi City, the Emerald Resort, which was located on the side of a mountain and a river, had been decorated with countless colorful lights. The resort covered a large area and had absolute privacy, so it didn't receive ordinary guests. Anyone who wanted to come here for a leisure vacation must be recommended by more than 2 members, and their total assets must not be less than 20 million yuan. The security is pretty good. When the car arrived at the entrance of the Emerald Resort, Tan Xiu couldn't help but exclaim after observing through the window. More than 40 high-spirited security guards in black suits were directing the incoming vehicles in an orderly manner. The guests who got off the car passed the security check and were brought in by the sightseeing cars. In the dark, there were at least dozens of experts who were good at hiding their tracks, quietly observing the situation. Tan Xiu estimated that if he brought Mo and the others with him to force their way through, it would probably take some effort for them to break through. Suddenly, Tan Xiu's expression changed. He glanced sideways and found that Mo had already appeared outside the car door. "Get off!" Tan Xiu nudged Han Qingwu and pushed the car door open. Soon, the 4 of them arrived in front of the gate guarded by dozens of burly men. An energetic white-haired old man in a tang suit smiled and said, "Welcome, everyone. Please show me your identification." Han Qingwu took out a black card and indifferently said, "I'm participating in the match tonight. They're my friends." The white-haired old man stared blankly and looked surprised. He didn't expect that there would be such a beautiful and young woman among the top 4 of the National Underground Boxing Tournament. The black card was proved to be genuine after the instrument's inspection. He immediately said, "You're indeed a contestant, but you can only bring 2 people with you at most according to the rules of the Underground Boxing Tournament." Ji Mu took out a gold and silver card and lightly said, "I'm carrying it myself." The white-haired old man let out a faint smile and said, "Young Master Ji is a gold card member of our Emerald Resort, so he can naturally enter. The 4 of you, please get on the car. The sightseeing car will take you to the boxing venue." The Emerald Resort occupied a large area. The sightseeing car took the 3 of them in a circle and took 7 to 8 minutes before stopping in front of a 3-story villa. In front of the door, dozens of beautiful girls in white dresses with long, soft hair lined up in a neat line, quietly waiting. One of the girls walked out from the line and quickly came to the front of the 3, saying, "Good evening, 3 distinguished guests. Welcome to the Emerald Resort. I'm Xiaoying. May I ask if the 3 of you are here to watch the boxing match?" Tan Xiu nodded. "Please come with me," Xiaoying said with a smile. Under her lead, the 3 of them came to the villa's hall. After entering the elevator, Xiaoying pressed the button and the elevator descended more than 20 meters. As the elevator door opened, Xiaoying smiled and introduced, "The boxing match will be held underground. There's a very large underground space here, and the arena and spectator seats have been set up. The 3 of you, please come with me. I'll take you to get your numbers first and then send you to the spectator seats." "I'm not here to watch the match. I'm here to participate in it," said Han Qingwu. "The organizers should have notified you in advance. You're here to participate in the match." Xiaoying was startled. She looked at Han Qingwu with a serious expression and saw Han Qingwu take out a black card. She immediately said with some apprehension, "Hello, Mississippi. I'll immediately send you to the backstage. Our supervisor has been waiting backstage for a long time." After saying that, she turned to Tan Xiu and Ji Mu and said, "Gentlemen, can you wait for a while? I'll immediately come back to pick you up after sending this young lady there." "All right." Tan Xiu nodded. After looking at Han Qingwu, he slightly hesitated and said, "Remember my words. Fight if you can win, and admit defeat if you can't. You've just started cultivating, so it won't be shameful even if you lose. How about this? If you lose, I'll give you a present, but if you win, I'll give you nothing." Han Qingwu looked at Tan Xiu with a dumbfounded expression. She immediately rolled her eyes at him and snappily said, "Do you really want me to lose? Let's change it. You'll get a gift if you win, but nothing if you lose." After she reacted, she immediately understood Tan Xiu's intention. Tan Xiu was afraid that she would risk her life in the ring, so he deliberately brought up the gift. This was his way of showing his concern for her. Han Qingwu left with Xiaoying, but her heart was warm. She made up her mind that no matter how simple it would be, She must win tonight's match and win the championship of the finals. At this moment, dozens of people were sitting in the auditorium in the underground space. In the last row, there was a big fatty with an oily face and a cigar in his mouth, talking to a thin middle-aged man next to him. Xueqing, I'm not bragging. If I were to participate in this year's underground boxing tournament, even if I can't win the championship, it wouldn't be a problem for me to get the second place. Don't look at me getting fatter and fatter, my body is still very flexible. Hey, Fatty Lee, can you stop bragging? If you said this more than a decade ago, I might have believed some of it. But now, I heard that you went to Shuangqing Province's Star City last year to find Chen Jizhong for a duel, right? And the result? You got beaten to the point that you looked for your teeth all over the floor. Now, many of your old friends are laughing at you. Fuck, which big mouth spread that news? Motherfucker. Good news doesn't go out, but bad news spreads far and wide. If it weren't for Chen Jizhong having a good master, I would have been. Forget it, I won't say it. Just thinking about it makes my stomach full of grievances. You're still feeling wronged? I think your skin is hurting. But you said that Chen Jizhong has a good master? Who is it? You want to know? Yeah. I won't tell you even if I want to know. You dare to laugh at me, Li Laoshan? I'll kill you. Fuck. While the two were chatting, Li Laoshan's proud expression suddenly froze. Immediately after, his fat body quickly stood up and dashed toward the hall's door under the dumbfounded eyes of his companions. This Fatty Li is so fat, yet he's still so flexible? The thin middle-aged man gulped down his saliva and muttered in disbelief. When Li Laoshan was still more than 10 meters away from Tan Xiu, he waved his palm leaf-sized palm and shouted, "Brother Tang, over here." Ah, it's a small world. We brothers are really fated to meet each other. Upon hearing the shout and seeing Li Laoshan running over, Tan Xiu couldn't help but burst into laughter. He had forgotten that Li Laoshan was also a martial artist, and this kind of black market boxing was the most attractive to him. Old brother Li, I haven't seen you for a few months. Have you put on weight again? Li Laoshan and Tan Xiu hugged each other. After releasing, he laughed aloud and said, I can't help it. Your old brother has no choice but to drink cold water. Fortunately, my old waist is still good, else I wouldn't even dare to drink cold water. Tan Xiu was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh as he rolled his eyes at him. Old waist is good? If it's not, then I'll become a eunuch. Li Laoshan glanced at Ji Mu next to Tan Xiu and smilingly said, Is this your friend, Brother Tang? Tan Xiu nodded and said, He's Ji Mu, a kid from the Ji family in Changshi City. Ji Mu, this is Li Laoshan, old brother Li. Hello, old brother Li, greeted Ji Mu quickly. You're a kid from the Ji family. Not bad, said Li Laoshan with a smile. Your Ji family's Ji Chunlei and I have a bit of friendship. We had a fight more than 20 years ago and later joined hands to fight someone else. It can be said that our friendship was forged through fighting. Ji Chunlei? Ji Mu shuddered inwardly. Wasn't that his father? In a flash. His view of Li Laoshan's identity was a bit higher. It must be noted that his father was an easygoing person on the surface, but he was very arrogant inside. Li Laoshan's identity was definitely not simple for him to be able to forge a friendship with him through fighting. At the side, Xiaoying, who had just returned from sending off Han Qingwu, said, Gentlemen, would you like me to send you to your seats first, and then you can chat? Li Laoshan looked at the card in Tan Xiu's hand. He took it and threw it back to Xiaoying, saying, My card is 128. Help them change their seats and let them sit next to me. Xiaoying hesitated for a moment before nodding. She took Tan Xiu's and Ji Mu's cards and quickly ran outside. Li Laoshan hugged Tan Xiu's shoulder and enthusiastically led him and Ji Mu to the back row. He then introduced his friend to Tan Xiu. Chu Xueqing. He was the big boss of the Beigong group and the leader of the northern machinery field. He usually kept a low profile, but his wealth was no less than Li Laoshan's. It's the end of the month. I'm asking for a monthly vote to support me. Chapter 706. The time of the underground fighting tournament was 8 p.m., and the guests arrived one after another, filling up all the seats in the auditorium before 7:30 p.m. The number of people was not a lot, but there were still about 400 to 500 people. Tan Xiao had never participated in this kind of underground fighting tournament before, so he didn't understand some of the underlying rules of the underground fighting tournament, such as gambling in the blackboard. "Brother Tang, how much do you want to bet?" Li Laozhan asked curiously as he wiped his greasy face. Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a puzzled expression, "What do you mean?" Li Laozhan said, "Place your bets. Don't tell me you don't want to play?" Tan Xiao didn't answer him directly, but frowned and asked, "Can I bet while watching the underground fighting tournament?" Li Laozhan rolled his eyes and looked speechless. Chu Xueqing, who was sitting on his other side, smiled and explained, "It seems that Brother Tang rarely participates in this kind of underground fighting tournament. As a matter of fact, the main purpose of each session of the underground fighting tournament is to provide some rich people with the opportunity to bet. Everyone had the dream of being a wuxia. If they didn't have the ability, they would bet a large sum of money on the fighters they fancied, to fight in the ring for them, to spill blood, and to stimulate the boiling blood in their bodies. To put it bluntly, it's just looking for excitement." Tan Xiao suddenly understood and was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "I've never participated in an underground fighting tournament before, so I really don't understand it. Are you going to bet, brothers?" "That's right. I've bet on more than a dozen matches. How can I not play in the finals?" Li Laozhan proudly said. "I'm optimistic about the boxers. His golden iron fist is a powerhouse whose strength is almost beyond the Grandmaster realm. Not only do I want to bet that he can rush to the top 2, but I also want to bet that he can win the championship." "I don't think so." Chu Xueqing shook his head and smilingly said, "Golden Iron Fist is indeed born with divine strength, and his punching technique is even more exquisite. He can inflict heavy damage to his opponents in every match, but his style is too firm and fierce, and he's bound to fall into a bitter struggle once he encounters a soft move. And it just so happens that one of the 4 boxers is Ladyboy Wu Tong. Her silk hand and 18 tan kicks are the perfect counter to Golden Radiant Iron Fist. If the two of them were to fight, it would be hard to say who would win." Tan Xiao said, "I heard that there is a boxer named Li Tong. Is he very powerful?" Li Laozhan and Chu Xueqing looked at each other and shook their heads in unison. "Brother Tang, Li Tong is indeed very powerful," said Li Laozhan. "He has broken through to the martial arts Grandmaster realm many years ago. Furthermore, his martial arts style is ruthless and his moves are tricky and strange. It's fine if he doesn't fight, but once he does, blood will definitely be seen, and he'll either die or be crippled. But I think he's still not as good as Iron Fist Jin Kan and Ladyboy Wu Tong." Tan Xiao nodded silently. Li Laozhan asked again, "Brother Tang, you haven't said whether you want to play or not." "I'm going to the backstage to place my bets. Do you want to come with me?" Tan Xiao nodded and said, "Since all of you are playing, then I'll also join in." "Jimu, what about you?" "The most important thing is to participate." "Let's go together," said Jimu quickly. Quickly, the 4 of them came to the backstage. Inside a long and wide table, more than a dozen staff responsible for handling the business were busy, while more than a dozen stalwart men stood everywhere, responsible for guarding the place. On the other hand, a charming lady was constantly greeting the guests who placed their bets. "Boss Li, Boss Chu, welcome to the 2 of you to place your bets. I've never seen these 2 handsome little brothers before. Are you also here to place your bets?" Upon seeing the arrival of the 4, her eyes immediately lit up and greeted them. Li Laozhan laughed aloud and said, "That's only natural. It's such a good opportunity. It's simply a reckless waste of God's gifts and a waste." "Black Widow, I'll bet." Suddenly, Li Laozhan realized something and quickly turned to look at Tan Xiao, asking, "Brother Tang, you haven't said who you're going to choose yet." "Han Qingwu." Tan Xiao calmly said. Li Laozhan stared blankly, while Chu Xueqing also wore a strange expression. In their opinion, Han Qingwu being able to rush to the last 2 matches was already beyond their expectations. They didn't expect that Tan Xiao would choose her. Li Laozhan squinted his eyes as he deeply observed Tan Xiao. Then he immediately looked at Black Widow and asked, "Black Widow, What's the odds for Han Qingwu? 7-1, said Black Widow with a smile. Li Laozhan immediately scratched the back of his head. The amount he was going to bet this time was not small. It was 100 million. If he lost, he would still feel distressed even if he had a big family business. However, he recalled Tan Xiu's terrifying strength and identity. After hesitating for a moment, he directly took out his bank card and handed it to Black Widow, saying, I'll also bet that Han Qingwu can win. 50 million for the first match and 50 million for the second match. Black Widow looked surprised, but she still nodded and quickly swiped the card for Li Laozhan. Soon, she handed a receipt to Li Laozhan. Chu Xueqing furrowed his brows. He didn't understand why Li Laozhan suddenly changed his mind. It must be known that a bet of 100 million didn't have much impact on them. But if they were to lose for no reason, they would still feel distressed. Could it be he did it because of Tan Xiu? Li Xueqing stared at Tan Xiu for a while before he finally chose transvestite Wu Tong, whom he favored, and also bet 100 million. Tan Xiu's processing speed was very fast. Ji Mu regarded Tan Xiu as a celestial being, so he naturally also bet on Han Qingwu. He had spent a lot of money recently and only had 20 million left, so he bet all of it. Brother Tang, you're really bold. You even dare to bet 100 million. It seems that I, old Li, can count the money with you today, said Li Laozhan with a smile. Li Laozhan said with a smile. However, his laughter was a bit weak, indicating that he was still a little skeptical about Han Qingwu's ability to win the competition. Soon after, the four of them returned to their original seats in the auditorium and quietly waited for the start of the underground fighting match. They were not in a hurry since they had already bet the money. From time to time, their eyes would fall on the rich guests in the auditorium. Occasionally, they would see some familiar friends, but they just nodded to greet them. At the entrance, Zhou Chong and Shen Shuai came together. Although they had been slapped several times by Ji Mu, the swelling on their faces had subsided a lot after they used ice cubes to cold compress them. Are you going to bet, Zhou Chong? Chen Shuai didn't have much money at hand, so he wanted to throw 1 million to play. He knew that Zhou Chong was very rich, but he didn't know how big the bet would be. I'll take out 5 million to play. Zhou Chong nodded and said, It's fine if I lose, but it's best if I can win. I'm not happy today, so I'll see some blood later, so I can vent some of my depression. Chen Shuai nodded and glanced at the audience in the hall a few times. Coincidentally, just as he was about to retract his gaze, he suddenly saw Tang Xiu and Ji Mu's faces. Zhou Chong, look at the right back corner. Zhou Chong looked over in surprise. When he saw Tan Xiu and Ji Mu, his expression suddenly turned a bit unsightly and he cursed inwardly for being unlucky. Still, he pretended that he didn't see anything and quickly followed the attendant to get his number and then went backstage to place his bet. What made the two of them helpless was that there were no seats left in the auditorium since they came too late, so they could only stand in the back and watch. At 8 o'clock sharp, when the woman called Black Widow by Li Laozhan came to the ring in the middle of the auditorium, she held the microphone and smiled brightly. She looked around and smilingly said, Welcome to the final of this year's underground fighting competition. I'm Black Widow, and also the host of today's underground fighting competition. First of all, I'd like to introduce the 4 contestants today. As a matter of fact, I'm sure everyone knows about these 4 boxers. Some of you are not unfamiliar with them and are very familiar with them. Now, let's welcome the first boxer. Before her voice faded away, a strong middle-aged man came out from the backstage passage. He had several scars on his face that looked like a centipede crawling on it, making him look particularly ferocious. Savage Beast Li Tong. Many tycoons in the auditorium shouted out loud. Li Tong, also known as Savage Beast, was synonymous with ferocity. Just his name alone could stimulate many people to bet on him winning. Coupled with his previous boxing style, nearly half of the tycoons who came here bet on him winning the match. Tonight is bloodthirsty day. My opponent will either die or be crippled. Li Tong came to the ring and fiercely waved his fists a few times as he roared loudly. The tycoons in the auditorium who bet on him winning immediately followed suit. Many of them were infected by Li Tong's confidence. They even tore apart the hypocritical side of the business world and revealed their ferocious emotions. The second one. It was Wu Tong, the sorcerer. He was a man, but not a man at the same time. After undergoing a sex change, he could only be said to be a half-man half-woman sorcerer, which was very fitting to his name. I'll kill anyone who stands in my way to become the champion. A gloomy voice came out of Wu Tong's mouth. His eyes emitted a chilling light. Every tycoon who met his gaze felt as though they were being stared at by a viper, making their hair stand on end and sending chills down their backs. The third one. It was Jean Ken the Iron Fist. He was very arrogant and very arrogant. As soon as he got on the ring, he tore his robe to shreds, exposing his bronze upper body as he roared loudly, "I'm Jean Ken, and I have an iron fist. Tonight in the arena, I will twist off their heads, tear off their limbs, dig out their hearts, and eat them right in front of you." Jean Ken. Iron Fist, Iron Fist. Countless shouts and shouts loudly cheered for him. The tycoons who bet on him also stood up and waved their fists, their blood boiling. The fourth one. It was Han Qingwu. She wore a training suit with her long hair tied up, looking valiant and heroic. She walked to the back of the ring with a cold expression and looked around. When she found Tan Xiu behind the auditorium, a smile suddenly appeared on the corner of her mouth and she said in a clear voice, "My opponent today is not them, but me. If I win, I'll leave standing up. If I lose, I'll leave lying down." This time, not many tycoons responded. After all, many people were not optimistic about her. 60% of those who bet on her winning were related to her appearance. Chapter 707. At the back of the auditorium, Zhou Chong and Chen Shuai were dumbfounded as they looked at Han Qingwu. A chill ran down their spines and straight to the back of their heads. Aside from the different clothes, there was no mistaking her figure and appearance. The two of them recalled the scene when they went to strike up a conversation with her. Recalling their actions of finding fault with her, they were so scared that they nearly peed their pants. It feels so good to be alive. Chen Shuai's throat squirmed as he wiped the cold sweat on his forehead with his trembling right hand. He simply couldn't imagine it. If Han Qingwu were to act against them in the Red House, they would probably be left with half of their lives at the very most, even if they didn't die. Zhou Chong unbuttoned his shirt as though he wanted to release the repressed feeling in his chest. Although Ji Mu had slapped him a few times and made him regret provoking Han Qingwu, this was the moment he regretted the most. He couldn't afford to provoke such a ruthless character who could participate in the underground fighting tournament and fight all the way to the finals. Chen Shuai, I used to hate Ji Mu a bit, but now I don't hate him anymore. I even feel grateful to him. I also feel the same way. Chen Shuai nodded with lingering fear. He recalled that if they had provoked Han Qingwu would have beaten them to death if she had acted against them. In the ring, with a smile on her face, Black Widow introduced the 4 contestants. Then, she called a beautiful girl to take the well-sealed box and placed it in the center of the ring. She then said with a smile, "There are a total of 4 poker cards in this box, 2 jokers and 2 jokers. Each of the 4 contestants will draw 1 card. Jokers will fight against jokers, and jokers will fight against jokers. The winner will participate in the final match." Lots were drawn. It was a very fair grouping method, so the 4 contestants had no objection. The results quickly came out. Han Qingwu and Fierce Beast Li Tong drew the jokers, while Iron Fist Jean Ken and Ladyboy Wu Tong drew the jokers. After Black Widow announced the grouping, she let the 4 contestants go backstage to prepare. The first round was the Jokers group, and the second round was the Jokers group. The Jokers group would begin at 8:30, and the contestants had 20 minutes to prepare. In the auditorium, Li Laoshan slightly furrowed his brows as he watched Han Qingwu leave. He couldn't figure out why Tan Xiu would choose Han Qingwu. He had watched dozens of previous matches and knew Han Qingwu's fighting prowess. Although she wasn't weak, whether it was in terms of strength or speed, she was considered one of the best. However, during the competition, she revealed her greatest weakness, mercy. In this kind of underground fighting competition, one would either be injured or killed. However, in the dozen or so fights that Han Qingwu participated in, The most seriously injured opponent only had a few broken ribs and a crippled arm. Tang Xiu. And she of the match. Of Yang Xiu. Tang Group and she. Li Laohan didn't want his 100 million yuan to go down the drain, so he hesitated and shouted. However, he regretted it right after. He had already made up his mind, and doubting Tang Xiu at this time wouldn't look good. Tang Xiu glanced at Li Laohan and lightly smiled. Don't worry. You know Han Qingwu? Tang Xiu glanced at Li Laohan and said with a light smile. I came with her this time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known about the underground boxing match, said Tang Xiu. Li Laoshan's restless heart immediately calmed down. He rubbed his hands and said with a grin, Hee hee, since I came with you, Brother Tang, then I can rest assured. Li Laoshan's restless heart immediately calmed down. He rubbed his hands and grinned. Since I came with you, Brother Tang, I can say that I've taken a tranquilizer. Li Laoshan's restless heart immediately calmed down. He rubbed his hands and said with a smile, Hee hee, I can rest assured since I came with you, Brother Tang. Losing money is just a small matter, and I'll definitely be laughed at by old Chu. He couldn't figure out why Li Laohan was so convinced by Tang Xiu. At 8:30, Han Qingwu was still in her original attire. She wore a black exercise suit and came to the arena from the backstage valiantly. Facing Li Tong, who had a cruel look on his face, her expression was cold. There was no fear or contempt. Her eyes swept over Tang Xiu and then fell on the host, Black Widow. Black Widow didn't speak any nonsense and directly announced the start of the boxing match and immediately left the ring. If it was a regular boxing match, the referee would stay in the ring and use the so-called rules to restrain the boxers. However, there were no rules at all in this kind of underground fighting competition. Once in the ring, not to mention all kinds of despicable and shameless means could be used. Even using weapons was not a problem, as long as firearms and other firearms were not used. Li Tong licked his lips and unscrupulously sized up Han Qingwu. He then grinned and said, Ice Phoenix, Han Qingwu, it's really not easy for me to meet such a top-notch woman like you in this underground boxing match. But if you directly admit defeat, I, Li Tong, will still have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. Han Qingwu coldly said, Cut the crap. Let's see who's the real deal. Li Tong grinned and said, Since you don't know the meaning of death, then don't blame me for ruthlessly destroying a flower. Han Qingwu didn't speak again. Her elegant body instantly dashed and appeared in front of Li Tong in the blink of an eye. The true essence in her body gurgled and flowed through the meridians all over her body. Li Tong didn't have the slightest worry. He was very excited after he drew the same team as Han Qingwu. He had watched Han Qingwu's matches and knew that although this woman's speed and strength were quite good, she was a soft-hearted person. If he were to fight with others, even if he could win the match, it would probably be a Pyrrhic victory. But as long as he could defeat Han Qingwu, he didn't have to worry about being seriously injured and unable to participate in the next match. His toes stepped on the ground and his legs tightened. In an instant he whipped his leg like a lightning bolt. As his body flew up, the moment Han Qingwu dodged, the shadow of his leg joined together. It seemed that he wouldn't give up until he kicked Han Qingwu. Bam! After more than 10 seconds of attacks, Han Qingwu's arm was finally hit. But amidst the pain, Han Qingwu also kicked Li Tong's calf while her body was swaying. Go to hell! Li Tong didn't want to be entangled in a fight because he still had another match. After a short attack, he didn't gain any advantage, which immediately aroused his fierceness. His body was like a hungry tiger pouncing on its prey. He instantly waved his fist and smashed it toward Han Qingwu's head. His right hand instantly grabbed a dagger from his waist. He was confident that as long as Han Qingwu dared to take his heavy punch, he would stab her head with the dagger. A cold glint flickered in Han Qingwu's eyes. She could see that Li Tong, who was using a weapon, wanted to kill her. She immediately moved her feet. While her body was dashing forward, she also leaned back. Her palm slapped Li Tong's incoming fist, but the fingers of her left hand slid under Li Tong's armpit. Puff! The direction of Li Tong's fist deviated, and the following dagger also shifted in an instant, narrowly passing through Han Qingwu's temple hair. Li Tong's body suddenly trembled. A clear wound appeared on his armpit. No one noticed that when Han Qingwu's fingers swept past Li Tong's armpit, a burst of true essence had been shot into the acupuncture point in the wound, turning over and hammering. At the moment when Li Tong's body trembled, Han Qingwu had already completed the whole set of movements smoothly and smoothly. Her seemingly tender fist fiercely bombarded the left side of Li Tong's neck. Crack! Although Li Tong's body was as hard as iron, his neck was still smashed by Han Qingwu's punch. That huge body also flew in the air with the sound of broken bones and heavily smashed on the ground of the arena 5 or 6 meters away. What's going on? How could it be? In the auditorium, a large number of rich people who had bet on Li Tong to win the match had their complexions greatly changed, and they couldn't help but cry out involuntarily. They hadn't seen Li Tong ruthlessly destroying a flower, nor had they seen an outstanding beauty being bled by Li Tong, nor had they seen her being torn into 2 halves in the back row. A smile appeared on Tan Xiu's handsome face. He was also a bit surprised. He didn't expect that Han Qingwu could unexpectedly release her true essence. It must be noted that only cultivators who had reached the foundation establishment stage could release their true essence. It was a bit unexpected that Han Qingwu, who was obviously at the late stage of qi refining stage, was able to do this. However, she won, and it was an easy victory. Li Laoshan suddenly turned his head and looked at Tan Xiu with a pleasantly surprised expression. How did Han Qingwu suddenly become so strong? It hasn't even been half a minute, right? She won just like that? Han Qingwu has received professional training and learned killing moves, said Tan Xiu with a faint smile. But she's not a bloodthirsty person. She probably didn't go all out in the previous matches. In fact, Li Tong is also very powerful. Whether it's his speed or strength, I'm afraid that ordinary martial arts grandmasters can't compare with him. However, he underestimated Han Qingwu's strength and guessed wrongly about Han Qingwu's determination. In fact, if he hadn't taken out that dagger, he might have been able to persist for a bit longer and was unlikely to be killed. Li Laoshan blinked and instantly understood Tan Xiu's meaning. Savage beast Li Tong was courting death. At the side, Chu Xueqing's complexion didn't look good. Although he had chosen Shimale Wu Tong, Han Qingwu's combat power was really beyond his expectation. He was also a person who advocated martial arts. Although his skill was not as good as Li Laoshan's, his vision was still very sharp. Who would have thought that Han Qingwu, whom he was most pessimistic about, would unexpectedly win the first match and directly kill savage beast Li Tong? What surprised him the most was that Han Qingwu killed Li Tong so easily. From the beginning to the end, it seemed that it didn't even take half a minute. Could it be that Han Qingwu can really become the final champion? Chu Xueqing glanced at Li Laoshan before his eyes fell on Tan Xiu. After observing for a long time, he revealed a bitter smile and secretly shook his head. The boxing match was not over yet, and he didn't want to see such an ending. Therefore, he secretly cheered for Shimale Wu Tong in his heart. Others might not be aware of it, but he was perfectly aware that Shimale Wu Tong didn't go all out in the previous boxing match. In the past, he had seen Ladyboy Wu Tong fight, and it was outside the arena of the underground fighting competition. At that time, Shimale Wu Tong was simply a crazy killing god. Chapter 708. The next match will be Ladyboy Wu Tong's turn. If he can win the match smoothly, that would be for the best. If it's a Pyrrhic victory, I'm afraid the final champion will be Han Qingwu, Chu Xueqing thought to himself. In another direction, at the back of the auditorium, Zhou Cheng and Chen Shuai looked at each other in dismay. Their hearts seemed to have fallen into ice, and their expressions became extremely ugly. It's good to be alive. My feelings towards this sentence have deepened. Chen Shuai touched his neck and said bitterly. Zhou Cheng had a complicated expression on his face as he said, "He's too strong. He's definitely not a weakling to be able to make it to the final 4 of the underground fighting competition." However, that fierce beast Li Tong didn't even last half a minute before it was killed by the woman surnamed Han. Marshal Chen, I suddenly feel very grateful to Ji Mu. If it weren't for his timely appearance, I'm afraid we... At this point he could not continue. However, Chen Shui understood what he meant. He took a deep breath and said, "Let's contact Ji Mu immediately after watching the match. Let's treat him to supper and thank him." "Alright." Zhou Chong nodded silently. Chen Shui asked, "Ji Mu is our savior. Shouldn't we give him some gifts as thanks?" Zhou Chong thought for a moment and said, "Since we want to thank him, we should indeed give him a gift. After the match, let's discuss and see what kind of gift is suitable." "I heard that Ji Mu has been buying precious medicinal herbs in the past 2 days." Chen Shui's expression suddenly changed as he lowered his voice and said, "Why would Ji Mu buy precious herbs?" Zhou Chong was puzzled. Was he not feeling well? Or a family member? "I don't know." Chen Shui shook his head and said, "It's just hearsay. I'm not sure if it's true or not. However, after watching the match, I'll ask a friend. If it's true, we'll cater to his tastes and get him some precious medicinal herbs." "No problem." Zhou Chong nodded thoughtfully. Black Widow stood below the arena and watched helplessly as vicious beast Li Tong was killed in less than half a minute. Her heart could not help but tremble a few times. She was also an expert. Although she had not even reached the realm of martial arts grandmaster, she was still shocked by the ruthlessness. Terrifying. So Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu hasn't been going all out. She shifted her gaze from Han Qingwu to Li Tong, who had fallen to the ground and twitched a few times. She sighed inwardly and went back to the arena. After checking Li Tong's condition, she got up and came to Han Qingwu's side, applauded, and said, "Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu, you're really good at concealing yourself. I hereby announce that vicious beast Li Tong has died tragically, and the winner is Han Qingwu. Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu, you can go backstage and rest for a while. The second match will begin at 10 o'clock. Han Qingwu nodded and glanced in the direction of Tan Xiu. After replying, she turned around and left the arena. The second match. After Iron Fist Jin Kan and Shimei Wu Tong came to the arena, their fighting spirit was very high. Even Tan Xiu, who was sitting at the back of the auditorium, turned his head to glance at Chu Xueqing after observing them. He lightly smiled and said, "Brother Chu's vision is really good. Shimei Wu Tong may look weak, but he's definitely very powerful. Also, the number of people who have died in his hands should be quite a lot." "You're joking, Brother Tang." Chu Xueqing forced a wry smile and said, "There's no way he can be compared with you. You favored Han Qingwu, but Han Qingwu easily killed vicious beast Li Tong and didn't even affect the second match. Shimei Wu Tong may be powerful, but even if he can defeat Iron Fist Jin Kan, I'm afraid he'll be badly injured and his vitality will be greatly damaged. I'm afraid he'll lose the second match with Han Qingwu." Tan Xiu smiled and didn't speak again. If Han Qingwu didn't want to kill, then so be it. As long as she made up her mind to kill, she would definitely win the championship. Tang Xiu had confidence in Han Qingwu, and he was even more confident in the experts of the Everlasting Feast Hall. He believed that Han Qingwu's strength would definitely be very formidable after being guided by those experts. Sure enough, the fight ended very slowly. Iron Fist Jin Kan and Shimei Wu Tong fought for more than 10 minutes before the outcome was decided. The final winner was Shimei Wu Tong. But after killing Iron Fist Jin Kan, he was also scarred and suffered serious internal injuries. At 10 p.m., when Black Widow stood on the arena again, her face didn't look good and even faintly looked angry. Holding the microphone, she suppressed her anger and said, "Next is the finals. Ice Phoenix Han Qingwu and Shimei Wu Tong, please come to the stage." After a while, both of them were already standing on the arena. Black Widow held her breath and fiercely glared at Shimei Wu Tong, who had just dealt with his external injuries. Then, she said in a deep voice, "I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. I hereby announce the start of the match." Wu Tong shot a deep look at Han Qingwu. He then shook his head and said, "My friends who bet on me to win, I apologize to everyone. My injuries are very serious, and it's very difficult for me to fight the second match. So, I admit defeat." "What? You admit defeat just like that? What kind of joke is this? The last match of this underground fighting tournament is also the one I've been looking forward to the most. Yet it ended just like that? This daddy's gambling stake is no less than 50 million. Wu Tong, if you admit defeat, I'll find a way to kill you. Fight me. You gotta make me bleed. What a spineless coward. I'm so regretful. Many rich people in the audience stood up and cursed loudly with angry expressions. Many of them even directly threatened Wu Tong. Wu Tong didn't stay for long. Even though he was very strong, he still couldn't withstand the anger of so many rich people. He was perfectly aware of his own situation. Only death awaited him if he continued to fight. Those rich people might attack him after the match, but he was confident that he could save his life. At worst, he could just leave China. Han Qingwu was very surprised. She didn't expect that Wu Tong would directly choose to admit defeat. She originally thought that she wouldn't use her killer move if Wu Tong didn't have the intention to kill her. But now, it seemed that her victory was already a foregone conclusion. In the audience, Li Laozhan glanced at the ashen-faced Chu Xueqing and immediately burst into laughter. Old Chu. I never thought that I, old Li, would have such good luck today. Not only did I bump into Brother Tang here, but I also earned 600 to 700 million yuan for nothing. It's great. It's really great. Brother Tang, let's not talk anymore. Let's go backstage to exchange the money first, and then I, old Li, will treat you to a drink. A smile appeared on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. The reason why he followed Han Qingwu to Changxi this time was because he was afraid that she would have an accident in the underground fighting tournament. He hadn't found the answer from Han Qingwu yet, so he absolutely didn't want her to die in the underground fighting tournament. Unexpectedly, he followed Li Laozhan's bet and won a lot of money. Let's go! Tan Xiu got up with a faint smile and was pulled away from his seat by Li Laozhan. Ji Mu, on the other hand, also looked happy as he followed him to the backstage. Although he didn't bet much, the odds were high enough. Half an hour later, Tan Xiu, Li Laozhan, Ji Mu, and Chu Xueqing had already taken the elevator to the surface. It didn't take long for Han Qingwu to change her clothes and come before everyone. Are you happy? Asked Tan Xiu while looking at Han Qingwu. Han Qingwu nodded and said with a smile, I won some money, so of course I'm happy. It's just that I'm not happy. I'm actually looking forward to fighting Ladyboy Wu Tong. If you want to fight, I'll send you to Jingmen Island later, said Tan Xiu with a smile. The smile on Han Qingwu's face froze. She immediately shook her head and let out a hollow laugh. Forget it. You also bet? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. How much did you win? I bet 20 million and won more than 100 million, said Han Qingwu. I'll be a rich woman in the future. Your family isn't short of money, is it? Tan Xiu snappily said. You don't want money from your family, do you? Do you really want to be self-reliant? Han Qingwu knew that Tan Xiu knew her grandfather, so he should also know about her family's situation. She nodded and said with a smile, I usually spend very little, so I spend what I earn. It's good. Tan Xiu smiled and no longer entangled with this issue. Instead, he pointed to Li Laozhan and Chu Xueqing and introduced them to Han Qingwu. Li Laozhan was a forthright person. He had won 600 to 700 million yuan because of Han Qingwu, so he patted his chest and said, Miss Han, I really have to thank you this time. 600 to 700 million. I'm afraid that I won't be able to earn that much in a year or two with my business. I'll treat you to supper tonight, and I'll give you a big gift when I go to Magic City some other day as a token of my gratitude. No need for a big gift, old brother Li, said Han Qingwu with a smile. This is what you deserve. When it's time for supper, we'll just have to choose a good place. Li Laozhan said in a straightforward manner, supper must be treated and a big gift must be given. That's right, Brother Ji. You're the local tyrant of Changxi City, so you should know where the best supper is, right? I'm in a good mood today, so take us to the best place. Brother Ji? Ji Mu shuddered inwardly. When he watched the game tonight, he secretly searched for information about Li Laozhan on the internet. What shocked him was that Li Laozhan was the Steel King of the North, and his net worth was definitely more than 10 billion yuan. Although he was a descendant of the Ji family, he didn't have the qualifications to be called brother by Li Laozhan. If it was his father, it might be more like it. He was basking in the light. Ji Mu secretly glanced at Tan Xiu and found that he nodded to him. He immediately let out a hollow laugh and said, I also won a lot tonight. Old brother Li, you're the guests, so I'll treat you to dinner. Another day, when old brother Li is free, I'll treat you again. This night, it was a fruitful night, but also a pleasant night. It was already 1:30 p.m. when the five of them finished their supper. Since he drank a lot, Tan Xiu, who didn't deliberately force the alcohol out of his body, was also a bit tipsy. As for Li Laozhan and Chu Xueqing, both of them drank a lot. When they left, Ji Mu called the Ji family's people to send them to the hotel they had booked in advance. However, before parting, Li Laozhan pulled Tan Xiu and told him that they would meet again tomorrow and then go to Magic City together. As for what it was, Tan Xiu didn't ask, and neither did Li Laozhan. Chapter 709. The next day. When the red sun rose from the east, Tan Xiu got up from the hotel bed in a daze. He was staying in Ji Mu's luxurious villa in Changshi City. He even changed the bedding in the master bedroom and gave it to Tan Xiu. As for him, he spent the night in a guest room on the first floor. Knock, knock. The bedroom door was knocked. As Tan Xiu opened the door, he saw Han Qingwu standing outside with a smile and her handbag in her hand. You got up so early? Asked Tan Xiu with a smile. Han Qingwu followed Tan Xiu into the bedroom and smilingly said, It's getting late. I heard some movements in your room, so I came over to ask. Are we going back to Shanghai directly? Or staying in Changshi City to play? I got a call from Yu Hong this morning and she complained about me. Tan Xiu thought for a while and asked, Do you have something urgent? If there's nothing urgent, I can have some fun in Changshi City. I'm fine with anything. Then let's stay here. Han Qingwu immediately said. We'll go back in the afternoon or evening. All right. Tan Xiu casually replied. He had promised Li Laozhan last night that he would go back to Shanghai with him, so he planned to contact him later. However, Han Qingwu's next words made Tan Xiu give up the idea of contacting Li Laozhan later. Tan Xiu, let's have breakfast first. How about you accompany me to Yendeng Ancient Town? I heard that the scenery there is very good, and I've always wanted to see it. But I've been too busy, so I haven't been able to go there until now. By the way, call Yu Hong and we'll have lunch there. Tan Xiu thought for a while and said, I'm afraid I'll have something very important to deal with later. You must approve my leave at that time. Upon hearing this, Han Qingwu immediately rolled her eyes at Tan Xiu. She didn't know whether to laugh or cry and said, You actually want to bargain with me? Forget it, forget it. Who asked me to be in a good mood these 2 days? I promise you. Tan Xiu was speechless. However, he did have a lot of things to do in the near future. On one hand, he had to think about how to make more money. On the other hand, he also had to hold the bidding for the magnificent Tang Corporation's project in Shanghai. Moreover, he didn't go to Jingmen Island to see Guyan during the new year, so he planned to go there in the near future. If he had enough time, he would also go to Nine Dragons Island. After washing up, Tan Xiu came to the first floor with Han Qingwu and saw Ji Mu, who was wearing an apron, coming out of the kitchen with 2 dishes. Bro Tang, Miss Han, you're up? Hurry up and eat breakfast. I'm the one who cooked today. You must do me the honor and eat more, Ji Mu said with a chuckle. You also know how to cook? Tan Xiu asked with a strange expression. Ji Mu puffed out his chest and proudly said, That's natural. Back then, in order to pick up girls, cough, cough. In order to fall in love, I spent a lot of effort on cooking. I believe in the saying that if you want to capture a person's heart, you must first capture her stomach. Pfft, hee hee. Han Qingwu couldn't help but burst into laughter, while Tan Xiu also burst out laughing. Who could have imagined that the dignified young master of the Ji family in Changshi City, Ji Mu, would actually learn cooking just to pick up girls? 4 dishes and a soup, meat and vegetable matching. Ji Mu was very thoughtful. He even put fruits and desserts on the table. It was as though he was afraid that Tan Xiu and Han Qingwu wouldn't be used to his cooking, so he also put hot milk and bread on the side. It's really delicious. Han Qingwu was not a foodie, but she still ate with relish. After eating a few mouthfuls, Tan Xiu praised, It seems your wife will be blessed in the future. It's good that you like it, said Ji-moo with an embarrassed smile. That's right, do you have any plans for today? I'm going to accompany Han Qingwu to stroll around, said Tan Xiao. We should return to Shanghai in the afternoon. Li Lao's-han also told me yesterday that we're going to Shanghai together today. Ji-moo glanced at Han Qingwu and found that she was eating with her head lowered. Then he said with a smile, since Brother Tang is accompanying Miss Han to go shopping, then I won't be the third wheel. If you're going to stay in Changshi for a few more days, call me at night, Brother Tang. If you don't want to stay, then I won't send you off. I'll visit you again when I have time later. Don't be so polite with me later. Tan Xiao waved and said, let's drink together if we have time. Alright. Ji-moo was immediately overjoyed after hearing it. He felt that his actions from yesterday to today were really worth it. At Yendang Ancient Town, Tan Xiao accompanied Han Qingwu to play for most of the morning until noon. Only then did they find a restaurant and waited for Yu Hong to come over. After receiving her complaints, they had lunch together. Originally, Yu Hong proposed to go boating together in the afternoon, but Tan Xiao received a phone call and immediately gave up the plan. Are you sure? Tan Xiao's eyes flickered while holding his mobile phone. Mouse's voice came from the phone again. Boss, there's absolutely no mistake. I spent a lot of money to buy this information from a senior executive of the Mind Assembly Tech. Do you know how much money I spent to get this information? 6 million. That greedy bastard actually asked for 6 million from me. Let alone 6 million, even 60 million is worth it, said Tan Xiao in a deep voice. I'll immediately send someone to contact you. You're in charge of commanding them and keep an eye on Xie Jiqiang. Call me immediately if he comes in contact with the SOE people again. You're not coming in person, boss? Asked Mouse. That's a big deal. I'm in Changshi now, said Tan Xiao. It'll take me 1 or 2 hours to get back. Tell me the address first. I'll go find you when I get there. All right, he hung up the phone. Looking at the excited Han Qingwu, Tan Xiao said, I have an urgent matter to take care of and have to rush back to Shanghai. I'm afraid I can't accompany you to go boating. Han Qingwu, will you go back with me? Or will you go back by yourself later? Since you're going back, then I'll go back too, said Han Qingwu without hesitation. Tan Xiao, what's the important matter that requires you to go back so urgently? Yu Hong said with dissatisfaction. Qingwu, it's not easy for her to come to Changshi, and I've already asked for a leave. How can I accompany her? Qingwu, if Tan Xiao has something to do, just let him go back first. Don't tell me you think I can't accompany her? This, Han Qingwu was a bit hesitant. That's right. Since Yu Hong has said so, then stay and have fun first. Tan Xiao said. Relax and have a good life later. Han Qingwu hesitated for a moment before nodding in agreement. After all, her good sister had specially asked for a leave to accompany her. If she were to leave, it would hurt her good sister's heart. 4 p.m. Tan Xiao, Li Lao's-han, and Chu Xueqing had already arrived in Shanghai. On the way, Tan Xiao figured out the purpose of their visit to Shanghai. It was to discuss business. Since Tan Xiao had an important matter to deal with, he agreed to meet with the two in 2 days and then hurried to the address Rat told him. Jingning District. Kunagsha Pharmaceutical Company. The geographical environment here was good, and the area it occupied was not small. Only after Tang Xiao learned that the company in front of him was a subsidiary of the Mind Assembly Biotechnology. It was also the place where the pharmaceutical factory was located. Even the land was bought by Xie Jiqiang. How is it? Is Xie Jiqiang inside? Tan Xiao asked directly after seeing the thievish-looking rat. Rat politely handed over a cigarette and personally lit it for Tan Xiao. Then he said, he has been in there for more than 4 hours and hasn't come out. The entire Kunagsha pharmaceutical factory is being watched by our people. He is definitely still inside. The intelligence bought with a lot of money shows that his secret laboratory is here. Tan Xiao asked, what about the people from SOE? Are there any unusual movements? Yes, said Rat. In the past 4 hours, a total of 2 groups of people have come here. One of them is from SOE, and the other group is made up of 4 or 5 people. Their identities are very mysterious. I have already sent people to investigate them, but there is no news yet. Tan Xiu frowned and said, "You mean that the other group of people is not from SOE? It shouldn't be," said Rat. "I have investigated the number of people from SOE who have sneaked into Shanghai this time. It shouldn't be their people. I think that the other group of people is also after the gene particle. Since I can bribe the higher-ups of the Mind Assembly Biotechnology, I'm afraid that there are also other forces eyeing the company and investigating the existence of the gene particle." "What you said makes sense." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Let's not act rashly for now. Let's not act rashly for now. Let's see how the other forces react first. By the way, the people from SOE and the other group of forces haven't found our people yet, have they?" "I've arranged it very secretly," said Rat with a smile. "They absolutely can't find us." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Continue to keep an eye on them. Whether it's the SOE, Xie Jiqiang, or the other group of forces, keep an eye on them. The gene particle is extraordinary. Regardless of which force gets it, they will probably be able to train a large number of experts in a very short time. Also, if the gene particle spreads out on a large scale, it will definitely affect the world's development. I don't want to see such a situation." Rat understood Tan Xiu's meaning. He was also aware of the power of the gene particle. According to the bragging of the Mind Assembly Biotechnology's higher-ups, obtaining the gene particle was tantamount to obtaining a large number of armed forces. Having armed forces was tantamount to controlling more power and obtaining more wealth. By the way, we haven't found anyone from the military. They seem to have disappeared mysteriously. Tan Xiu stared blankly and frowned. Could it be that the other group of people who came here in the afternoon were from the military? Unlikely. Rat shook his head. Investigate them. Investigate anyone who has the power to pry into the gene particle, even if they are from the military, said Tan Xiu. Understood. Rat nodded heavily. Tan Xiu didn't stay here. After getting on the car, he looked at Mo All, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, and directly ordered, "Send someone to get 2 sets of night walking clothes. We're going to do some activities tonight." "I'm really sorry. There was a last-minute training session yesterday, so the update couldn't be completed. Quiet Night will try to complete the update before the end of the month. We'll update as usual today." Chapter 710. The moonlight shone like water, sending a chill down one's spine. Jingning District. Outside the outermost high wall of the Koenigsha Pharmaceutical Company, 2 ghostly figures silently approached and easily climbed a bare tree outside the courtyard wall. It was as though 2 gusts of black wind leaped from the high branches into the iron barrels stacked inside the wall. "Put this on." In a hidden corner, Tan Xiu took out an invisibility charm and handed it to Mo All, who was also wearing a black suit. Mo All didn't ask Tan Xiu what it was. He directly wore it on his neck and whispered, "Boss, this Koenigsha Pharmaceutical Company doesn't seem to have many security guards on the surface, but there are a lot of people hiding in the dark. The most important thing is that there should be surveillance equipment everywhere. We'll be discovered unless we sprint at full speed." Tan Xiu smiled indifferently and patted his shoulder. He then lowered his voice and said, "Remember, no matter what happens, don't speak or make any noise." After saying that, under Mo Ao's watchful eyes, he directly walked out from the iron barrels. Even if there were 4 security guards lined up in the distance with flashlights, he didn't avoid them in the slightest. This, Mo Ao was confused. He didn't understand why the boss exposed his whereabouts. However, he still grabbed a sharp dagger in a flash and flashed to Tan Xiu's side. Once those 4 security guards pounced on them, he would kill them with lightning speed. However, the next scene made him dumbfounded. The 4 security guards lined up and patrolled around as though they didn't see Tan Xiu and him at all. They shone their flashlights and looked around, brushing past the 2 of them. Mo Ao hadn't recovered from his shock until the 4 security guards disappeared at the corner in the distance. A smile outlined on the corner of Tan Xiu's mouth. He gently patted Mo Ao's shoulder and then strode inside. After walking for dozens of meters, he found more than a dozen surveillance cameras. He then took Mo Ao and swaggered past the surveillance cameras. "What the hell? Mo swallowed his saliva and followed behind Tan Xiao. After passing by the other 4 security guards, he subconsciously raised his hand and touched the invisibility charm hanging on his chest. Although he was a Taoist cultivator with a body full of strength, he didn't know any magic and he didn't understand the magical effects of talismans. He wanted to ask, but when he recalled Tan Xiao's words, he could only suppress the confusion in his heart. Koenigsha Pharmaceutical Company covered a large area, and there were many buildings inside. There were even a few rows of factories at the back. What made Tan Xiao and Mo speechless was that they had only entered the front yard, and as they continued to walk deeper, they found many sentry posts. Over the past 2 days, while the patrols were in and out, they successfully sneaked past 3 sentry posts and stopped in front of the 4th one. What should we do? Mo followed Tan Xiao to a remote corner and asked in a voice that only the 2 of them could hear. In front of the 4th sentry post, there were 6 security guards standing, and there were no security guards coming in or out at all. What made Tan Xiao and Mo speechless the most was that once they crossed the 4th sentry post, there was a steel-cast corridor inside, and the entire corridor led directly to the door of a 5-story building. The windows of the entire building were all sealed with anti-theft windows. Tan Xiao had been releasing his spiritual consciousness, covering a radius of 200 or 300 meters. In the face of Mo's inquiry, even if he could fly and had the invisibility charm, he still couldn't do anything. I can't get in. Tan Xiao shook his head. In the observation of his spiritual consciousness, there were no other people in the entire 5-story building except for the 18 security guards who were sleeping and did not even take off their clothes. According to the intelligence, Xie Jiqiang had come here at noon yesterday and had not left at all, but now he couldn't find his shadow. Tan Xiao guessed that there should be an underground laboratory, but he couldn't even get inside, let alone the underground laboratory. At this time, he didn't want to beat the grass and alert the snake, because he didn't know whether this was a smoke bomb thrown by Xie Jiqiang or not. Gene particles. This was very important to Tan Xiao. He didn't want to see the world structure change, and he didn't want to see the emergence of countless genetically modified humans in the world. If the gene particles had side effects, he was afraid that it would harm a lot of people. Let's go. We'll think of another way. Tan Xiao sighed in his heart, reached out to grab Mo's shoulder, and his figure instantly soared into the sky. In just a few breaths, he had already flown out of Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals. In less than 2 minutes, 15 ghostly figures rushed out from the 4th sentry post. They were wearing pitch-black steel armor, holding knives, swords, sticks, axes, and other cold weapons of various shapes. Boss, there's no one. One of the middle-aged men in armor, after searching around for a while, raised his wrist and reported to the walkie-talkie. Tens of meters underground, Xie Jiqiang sat in front of the monitor, his eyes flashing with coldness. The heat detector would never make a mistake. Previously, his subordinate reported that it detected 2 humanoid energy furnaces, which meant that someone had already sneaked in. Find them, even if you have to dig 3 feet underground, find them for me, said Xie Jiqiang in a deep voice. In a residential building a few kilometers away from Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals, Tan Xiao and Mo appeared. As the 2 entered the house, the monkey-faced mouse greeted them with bloodshot eyes. Boss, you personally went into action? Yes, I personally went into action, but there was no harvest, said Tan Xiao. The entire Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals is under Xie Jiqiang's management, so there's no way to enter it. I've read all the information you got, and we couldn't even enter the infrared mechanism inside. I didn't collect much information about Xie Jiqiang, said Mouse helplessly. But from the information I got, I can tell that he's very cautious and never leaves any traces behind. What's more, the 4 years of his life experience in his profile were all fake. I can't find anything, so he should not have been in the country during those 4 years. Since we can't find anything now, then there's no need to investigate him anymore. Tan Xiao nodded. Remember, what I want is the gene particle. This thing is too terrifying, so we must get it in the end. Inform your men to withdraw the monitoring point by 2 kilometers. Remember, the intelligence personnel must not be exposed. Rest assured, boss. I'll definitely arrange it. Mouse cautiously nodded. Tan Xiu didn't speak anymore. He quickly changed his clothes and left with Mo. He didn't go to the Paradise Manor this time but directly returned to the Blue Star Villa complex. The next morning, Tan Xiu left home in high spirits and walked to the University of Science and Technology. Due to the recent delays, he had hardly studied. Therefore, he didn't plan to busy himself with other things before the bidding for the project. He wanted to calm down and learn more things. In the library, Tang Xiu quietly flipped through the books on finance and economics. Although the morning class had already ended, he always felt that he seemed to have forgotten something. Buzz. His mobile phone, which was set to vibrate, suddenly vibrated. Tan Xiu grabbed the phone and looked at the caller ID. He suddenly remembered that he had forgotten something. He received a text message this morning. Yuan Chuling wanted to come to the University of Science and Technology to find him, saying that he had something to discuss with him. And this phone call was from Yuan Chuling. Tan Xiu didn't answer the phone. After hanging up, he sent a text message to Yuan Chuling, telling him to wait for him at the entrance of the University of Science and Technology. Then, he put away his books and took the books he had selected before to the registration office. After going through the borrowing procedures, he went straight to the entrance of the University of Science and Technology. Oh, Fatty Yuan, you're doing quite well, aren't you? Nice cars and beautiful women. You're so romantic and unrestrained. As soon as Tan Xiu came out, he saw Yuan Chuling hugging a graceful and beautiful girl next to a white Porsche Cayenne. He immediately walked over and teased him. Upon seeing Tan Xiu, Yuan Chuling pushed the girl in his arms away and said with a smile, "Big bro, I'm just taking advantage of you. If you didn't invest in me, how could I have the capital to be so free and unrestrained? This is Little Ting, my girlfriend. Little Ting, this is the big bro I often tell you about, Tan Xiu." "Nice to meet you, Tan Xiu," said Wei shouting with a natural and graceful nod. Tan Xiu nodded and immediately looked at Yuan Chuling and asked, "What's the matter? Why are you looking for me so urgently? I'm a good student here, so don't disturb my studies." Yuan Chuling rolled his eyes and snappily said, "If you're a good student, then there are no bad students in this world. I just heard a few days ago that the dignified big boss of the magnificent Tang Corporation has been studying at the University of Science and Technology for more than half a year, yet the number of times he has attended classes in the classroom is pitiful." Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and asked, "Have you contacted Han Qinggu?" "Hee, you're indeed worthy of being Big Bro Tang," said Yuan Chuling with a grin. "But she has a deep grudge against you, saying that you're too busy and don't have time to pamper her." "Fuck off." Tan Xiu smilingly scolded, "What exactly are you looking for me for? Spit it out if you have something to say. I still have to go back to the library to read books." Yuan Chuling rubbed his hands and grinned, "I need money." "What money?" Tan Xiu stared blankly and asked with a confused expression. "Our fitness center's business is booming and we made a lot of money after the new year," said Yuan Chuling. "But I'm not going to give you any dividends for the time being. I'm thinking of opening another branch, and I've checked the address. However, the investment for opening a branch is a bit big. I asked my dad for 10 million yuan, but the total amount is only 16 million yuan, which is not enough." "You don't have enough money, so why are you in such a hurry to open a branch?" Tan Xiu asked with a helpless expression. "I have no choice. I want to develop the fitness center as a business," said Yuan Chuling. "Besides, the location I chose this time is really good. After some research, I found that there are 2 new residential areas nearby, both of which are high-rise residential areas. The high flow of people is one thing, but the rent is also cheap. The boss has run into some bad luck, so he's anxious to rent out the store in his hands." "How much more money do you need?" asked Tan Xiu. 3 million, said Yuan Chuling. "If you have too much money to burn, you can give me 2 million more." Chapter 711. It's good to be motivated, but you also need to act within your capabilities. This was Tan Xiu's point of view. If it were an ordinary friend who asked for 3 or 5 million yuan, he would never have bothered to pay attention to it. But Yuan Chuling was not his ordinary friend. He was his best friend who could fight for him, proposed to expel him from school, and finally followed him to transfer classes. Tan Xiu took out a cigarette and took the time to light it and smoke. He then transferred 5 million yuan to Yuan Chuling's account through his mobile phone. Then, he calmly said, "Just give me a call for such a trivial matter later. You don't have to come all the way here." Yuan Chuling was a bit touched inside, but he didn't show it on the surface. With a smile on his chubby face, he said to his girlfriend, Wei, shouting, "See? This big bro of mine is so bright that I'm speechless. Big bro will protect you in the future. You'll definitely have a good life if you follow me." "You're dead." Wei, shouting coquettishly, rolled her eyes at Fatty. She then shifted to Tang Xiu and said, "This Fatty is really lucky to have a boss like you. I always heard him say how good you are to him before, and now I've seen it with my own eyes. I'll call you big bro like Fatty in the future. You don't mind, do you?" "It's fine." Tan Xiu waved his hand and smilingly said, "Well, have you had lunch, big bro?" Wei, shouting, laughed. "Shall we find a place to have lunch together?" Tan Xiu didn't refuse. He didn't have much ability to recognize people when he was in the immortal world. But after returning to Earth, he had been very diligent in this aspect and had made great progress. Even though it was his first time interacting with Wei Xiaoting, he could sense that Wei Xiaoting wasn't with him because Yuan Chuling was rich. Her attitude and even her eyes showed that she really liked Yuan Chuling. In the evening, Tan Xiu received a call from Moe and came to Paradise Manor. Although Moe didn't say anything specific over the phone, Tan Xiu felt that it should be something good from his trembling voice that was tinged with surprise. To his surprise, just as he arrived at the innermost Western-style building in Paradise Manor, he found Han Jintong, Shan Zhena, Ouyang Lulu, and Han Qingwu were also there besides Moe. "Professor Mo, why did you call me over so urgently?" Inkblot held the glass bottle tightly in his hand. The glass bottle was half filled with dark red blood. Upon hearing Tan Xiu's inquiry, he hurriedly replied with an excited expression, "There's a special active energy in Shanjena's blood, boss. I've studied it and found that this active energy can slow down the cell division in the human body and secrete more red blood cells. At the same time, I discovered that it contains another terrifying virus element. This virus element is extremely harmful to living beings, but if it is integrated into the bloodstream, it will evolve into active energy." Tan Xiu interrupted him and said, "Professor Mo, you don't have to explain in such detail. I just want to hear the most important conclusion. Active energy can slow down the metabolism of living beings and can supplement the internal energy consumption of living beings," said Moe. "The simplest way to put it is that if there's this active energy in the human body, it can prolong one's life." Tan Xiu was silent for a moment and then slowly asked, "Can the human body accommodate this active energy?" Moe's expression froze and he was rendered speechless. He only studied the substance contained in the bloodkin's blood, but he didn't conduct any experiments at all. The possibility he mentioned was a complete speculation. According to Moe's past character and rigorous attitude towards science, such a situation would never occur. However, the result of the bloodkin's blood research made him extremely excited. After all, if the active energy he studied was really as he speculated, and it could greatly increase the lifespan of humans, it would mean that he had achieved great success in the field of scientific research. Even if this result were to be promoted to the entire human race, he would rewrite history and become the greatest scientist in the history of mankind. Looking at the frozen expression on Moe's face, Tan Xiu lightly said, "Professor Mo, your current research results are just like Tang Xuanzang and his disciples' journey to the West on a pilgrimage for Buddhist scriptures. They've only taken the first step, yet they couldn't even rescue Monkey Sun, who was crushed under the Five Fingers Mountain. Don't deny it, the active energy you just mentioned hasn't been tested on the human body yet. Furthermore, even if it has been tested, it's still unknown whether this active energy can survive in the human body. Even if it can survive, will there be any sequelae? Even if there are no sequelae and it's completely beneficial to mankind, there's no way to promote it to the entire human race. Even this research can't be exposed to outsiders." Moe was ashamed by Tan Xiu's words, But Tan Xiu's last sentence still made him a bit unconvinced, so he asked, "Why can't it? You're a researcher, so you probably haven't thought about the consequences." Tan Xiu sighed. The active energy exists in the blood of the bloodkin. How many bloodkin are there in this world? How many bloodkin's blood can be provided to increase the lifespan of humans? Furthermore, if the amount of the active energy extracted is too little and it's known by those powerful people in the world, do you think it will cause turmoil? Can we be safe and sound? An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. You should understand this truth. Moe was stunned. Tan Xiu's words were like a blow to his head, making him sober up in a flash. Quantity. An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring becomes a crime. Merely these two factors caused the trace of dissatisfaction in the bottom of his heart to vanish into thin air. Humans have endless desires, and greed is the most terrifying desire. Since ancient times, there have been human sovereigns who committed all kinds of atrocious crimes for the sake of immortality. For the sake of longevity, for the sake of prolonging life, what kind of disaster would the modern people do at all costs? And wouldn't the disaster fall on him and Tan Xiu? Cold sweat dripped from Moe's forehead. An apologetic look appeared on his old face as he nodded and said, "I understand, boss." Tan Xiu sighed and faintly said, "Your responsibility is research, Professor M. I also hope that your research can achieve great results. But we don't have the ability to suppress the entire human race, so we can only secretly use the results on our own people. Whether we can prolong our lifespan and live a few more years, it's all up to you." Our own people? Including me? Moe's eyes lit up. He nodded with a serious expression and said, "Rest assured, boss. I'll do my best." Tan Xiu patted his shoulder and then looked at Shanjena with a faint smile. "Stay for a while. Cooperate with Professor Mo's research. I'll give you a big gift when his research results are out. Even if you can't become a prince in the future, being an earl or marquis is also good." "I'll definitely fully cooperate with you." Shanjena was ecstatic. Tan Xiu nodded with satisfaction. Then he suddenly looked at Han Jintong and said, "Actually, even if I don't give you a cultivation technique, I'm afraid your granddaughter will get one for you in the future given her ability. However, given your current age and the cultivation conditions on Earth, it will be very difficult for you to have any great achievements even if you risk your life. I think you should relax your mind and enjoy your old age." Han Jintong revealed a bitter expression and said, "Even if I don't have any great achievements, it's still better than doing nothing all day long. Moreover, even a single level of advancement would increase my lifespan by a little. Living longer is always a good thing after all." "I understand." Tan Xiu nodded. Shortly after, Tan Xiu left the Western-style house and greeted Ouyang Lu. Just after he left the Paradise Manor, he received a call from Han Qingwu. After waiting outside for a few minutes, Han Qingwu drove her car and caught up with him. "Is there something?" Sitting in the driver's seat, Tan Xiu opened the front seat's window and asked. Han Qingwu also didn't get off. She hesitated for a moment and asked, "Will you go to school tomorrow?" "I should go to school tomorrow if there are no unexpected situations," said Tan Xiu. "But why don't you stay in Changxi City for a few more days?" "Yu Hong has to work, so she doesn't have much time," said Han Qingwu with a smile. "All right, I just wanted to ask you if you'll go to school tomorrow. There's nothing else, so I'll take my leave first." "All right." Tan Xiu closed the window and couldn't help but shake his head. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the ocean. He really couldn't fathom it. If it was just to ask if he would go to school tomorrow, she could have just asked on the phone. Why did she make him wait for a few minutes and waste his time? The next 2 days were calm and tranquil. Tan Xiu didn't care about Xie Jiqiang and Soe's matters in these 2 days, nor did he ask about Moe's research. Instead, he went to the classroom, the cafeteria, the library, and then returned to Blue Star Villa complex to rest. Early in the morning, the first ray of sunlight passed through the gap of the curtains and shone into the bedroom. Tan Xiu was awakened by the melodious ringtone of his mobile phone. He picked up the phone and chatted with Kang Xia for a while, learning that she would personally rush to Shanghai 3 days later to preside over the project bidding meeting. The project bidding was imminent, and all the procedures for the purchase of the land had been completed and all the documents had been approved. They only needed to finalize the final construction company before the project could start. The design drawing. It was drawn by Tan Xiu himself, but it was only a rough outline of the overall framework. He didn't draw the specific architectural distribution, the subdivision of the building, the house type, the specifications, and so on. Naturally, he needed the construction company to modify and design it according to his design drawing. Tan Xiu's drawing ability was very strong, and he also had countless buildings in the immortal world as his reference. But this time, he was going to build the magnificent Tang Corporation's HQ and industrial park, so he didn't know much about the design and considerations of modern architecture. Knock, knock. The door was knocked and the voice of the housekeeper, Zhang Xinlan, came from the outside. "Mr. Tang, there's a guest waiting for you in the living room downstairs." Tan Xiu opened the door and looked at Zhang Xinlan outside, asking, "Who's looking for me?" "Your big sister, Miss Chen," said Zhang Xinlan with a smile. "Big sister? Chen Shaowan?" Tan Xiu's expression moved and he immediately walked out of the door. There will be a lot of meetings in the next few days, so the second chapter may be delayed a bit. Please understand, brothers and sisters. Chapter 712. Chen Shaowan had been very busy recently. She stayed up all night every day and was exhausted. Finally, after completing an unprecedentedly large project, he could finally relax. Despite being young and energetic, she still stayed in her residence and rested for 2 or 3 days before she could be considered to have fully recovered. She had only a few friends in Shanghai, and colleagues with whom she shared a common language were even rarer. After being fully recovered, she still had 3 or 4 days of vacation left. Taking advantage of the fact that it happened to be Sunday, she excitedly ran to the Blue Star Villa complex, looking for Tan Xiu to go out for a stroll. "How come you're free today, sis?" asked Tan Xiu with a smile as he walked down the stairs and came to the living room. Chen Shaowan got up and smilingly said, "I just got some free time, so I ran over to look for you. Do you have anything to do today? Do you want to go shopping with me?" Tan Xiu gave it a thought and found that he really had nothing to do today, so he happily agreed. He had a special feeling for Chen Shaowan, an older sister who was several years older than him, and he cherished her very much. After having breakfast at home, the duo drove the cheapest car in the garage in a low-key manner and went to the bustling streets of Shanghai. They went shopping, had a meal, and even went to watch a movie in the afternoon. It wasn't until the evening that the duo casually found a restaurant. "There's something wrong with your legs, sis." After ordering the dishes and handing over the menu to the waiter, Tan Xiu looked at the somewhat tired Chen Shaowan and said. Chen Shaowan stared blankly for a moment before a dejected look flashed on her face. She then forced a smile and said, "It's nothing. Maybe I'm a bit tired after walking all day." "You wouldn't be in such a state if you were tired." Tan Xiu shook his head. "Sis, there's no need to hide anything between us. Tell me what happened." Chen Shaowan hesitated for a moment before she forced a smile and said, "You're talking about my left leg, right? As a matter of fact, I went to see a client last week. That client turned out to be a pervert, and he couldn't take advantage of me, so he hit me with an ashtray. It hurt a bit at first, but it's been a week. It won't hurt too much if I don't walk for a long time." "A client? What client?" asked Tan Xiu with a frown. "It's just an ordinary client." Chen Shaowan waved her hand and said, "The business has gone sour, and I don't want to talk about that person anymore. Brother, I've always had a question. Can I ask you?" Seeing that Chen Shaowan didn't want to say anything, Tan Xiu had no choice but to suppress this doubt in his heart and said, "If you have any questions, just ask. I'll definitely tell you everything I know." "Brother, I really don't understand. How did our company's big boss become your subordinate?" asked Chen Shaowan. "Her respect for you seems to exceed the boundaries of a subordinate to a leader. Could it be that you fed her some kind of magic potion? Or do you have something on her?" Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "Your little brother has a strong charisma, so those subordinates will naturally listen to me. Kawako naturally attached great importance to my words since she could get some benefits from me. No matter what, I, your brother, am now a nouveau riche who can earn hundreds of thousands of yuan every minute. Chen Xiaowan couldn't help laughing and gave Tan Xiao a flirtatious, supercilious look. Suddenly, a brilliant light flashed in her eyes, and she asked with some anticipation, "Why don't you go somewhere with me tonight?" "What place?" Tan Xiao didn't expect that Chen Xiaowan would suddenly have such a whim and even look of expectation, so he immediately asked. "As a matter of fact, it's our university classmates gathering tonight," said Chen Xiaowan. "But with you accompanying me, I want to go instead." Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. "What's the matter with me going to your university classmates gathering? I don't know anyone." Chen Xiaowan gave it a thought and felt that Tan Xiao's words made sense. Her eyes immediately turned dark and she said with a helpless expression, "Let's not go since you don't want to. But what are we going to do after dinner?" "I'll take you to a good place," Tan Xiao said with a smile. "You can go there to have fun when you have nothing to do later." "Where?" "The Paradise Manor." 2 hours later, Tan Xiao and Chen Xiaowan arrived at the Paradise Manor. Chen Xiaowan's expression turned strange as they entered the front gate. She couldn't help but pull Tan Xiao's sleeve and whispered, "Brother, since we're already here, why don't you go sit with that group of classmates?" "Classmates?" Tan Xiao stared blankly and asked with a surprised expression, "Is this the place for your class reunion?" "Yes, it is." Chen Xiaowan nodded. "There are a few local tycoons in our class who have been doing very well after graduation. This college reunion is also arranged by them." Tan Xiao thought for a while and then nodded, "All right. Tell me the specific address first. I'll go find the boss here and get 2 bottles of good wine. I'll look for you later." "You know the boss here?" Chen Xiaowan was surprised. "I know him. I'm quite familiar with him," said Tan Xiao with a smile. A few minutes later, Tan Xiao appeared in Ouyang Lulu's office. To his surprise, he found that Ouyang Lulu's outfit today was different from her usual style. She had changed into a professional outfit for a white-collar worker. She wore glasses and permed her blonde hair as she sat on the boss's chair, reading a book. "Your style is really interesting." Tan Xiao let out a faint smile and came to Ouyang Lulu's front. His eyes casually swept over the book in her hand and his expression suddenly froze. Cherry Kamaruko manga?" Ouyang Lulu put down the book and happily walked out of her desk. She cheerfully turned around in front of Tan Xiao and smilingly said, "How is it? My outfit is good, right?" "Yeah." Tan Xiao forced a smile and said, "It's just that your outfit doesn't seem to match the book you're reading. Anyways, let's not talk about this. Sis Xiaowan has come to the Paradise Manor, and her college classmates happen to be having a reunion here. I'll take 2 bottles of good wine and go there. You should have some God's nectar here, right?" Upon hearing Tan Xiao's question, Ouyang Lulu was a bit annoyed and immediately said, "I do have some, but that surnamed Kong is too stingy. There are less than 100 boxes of God's nectar left in stock now. A few days ago, my subordinates complained to me that it won't take long for the rest of the God's nectar to be sold out." Tan Xiao snappily glared at her. Was 100 boxes less? He was the one who set the rules. Let alone 100 boxes, even if there were 8 or 10 boxes, he wouldn't be able to buy it if he didn't buy it through the magnificent Tang Corporation's exclusive stores in major cities. "All right, don't be ungrateful of your blessings. The magnificent Tang Corporation has its own rules and regulations. You are already an exception. Kong Xia will come to Shanghai in a few days. If you want more God's nectar, you can pester her when the time comes. Whether you can get it from her or not will depend on your ability." "No problem." Ouyang Lulu immediately nodded. Paradise Manor. On top of a 3-story Western-style building, Shimail Wutong was holding a pair of binoculars and observing the situation inside a building in the distance. He could clearly see the figures of Tan Xiao and Ouyang Lulu through the building's window. Who the hell is this guy? He has a very close relationship with Ice Phoenix, but he also has a lot of relationships with other women. Isn't he afraid that Ice Phoenix will get jealous and cut him alive? Wu Tong had been secretly following Han Qingwu for several days. To his surprise, Han Qingwu was like a little girl in love. Through his observation, he found that the person Han Qingwu liked was Tan Xiu, a student of Shanghai University, but a guy with a very eccentric behavior. Your luck in love is not shallow. Wu Tong let out a strange laugh, but he didn't have the slightest envy. He liked men, but he had a good feeling toward Tan Xiu. He even fantasized about whether he could pamper Tan Xiu, who he found interesting. Who is it? Suddenly, Shimale Wu Tong's complexion crazily changed. He instantly turned around with a dagger in his hand and looked at the middle-aged man who was only 7 or 8 meters away from him, looking at him with a cold and detached expression. You should be familiar with me, said Mo indifferently. Wu Tong squinted his eyes, but a tempestuous shock surged inside his heart. He was perfectly aware of his own strength, as well as his own vigilance. The other party was able to lurk 7 or 8 meters away from him without him being aware of it. His skill was absolutely terrifying. It's you, his bodyguard? Wu Tong stretched his arm and pointed to the window in the distance. Since you know about it, you should also know that you've been exposed, right? Tell me, why are you following and monitoring my boss? Wu Tong snorted coldly and said, I like him. What's it to you? Having said that, he immediately turned around and his figure instantly jumped down from the top of the building. He easily jumped down from the 3-story height and stood on the ground. He looked up at Mo, who had chased him to the edge of the roof and poked his head out. Wu Tong raised his middle finger at Mo. Then he turned around and was about to leave. Do you think we're a place where you can come and go as you please? A figure blocked Wu Tong's way with the sharp dagger in his hand fluttering like a butterfly. Wu Tong furrowed his brows and vigilantly looked at the man in front of him. He didn't want to be entangled with him, so he turned around and bolted in the opposite direction, intending to leave this place for the time being. However, just as he ran for a dozen steps, another burly figure blocked his way. God damn it! Wu Tong cursed angrily. This time, he didn't evade and directly pounced toward the burly man. His lightning-fast fist also bombarded the burly man's chest. The afterimage suddenly approached him. Wu Tong only saw a blur in front of him. His fist had yet to hit the man's chest, but his lower abdomen seemed to be hit by a huge force. The pain made him feel that his intestines were knotted at this moment. To his disbelief, he could see from the corner of his eyes that he was flying backward and the scenery on both sides was moving forward. Cough, cough. Wu Tong heavily fell on the cold concrete floor 7 or 8 meters away. However, he, who had experienced countless sufferings, endured the pain in his abdomen and pressed his hands on the ground. In the blink of an eye, he stood up again. Chapter 713. Shimale Wu Tong was a ruthless and merciless character. He had fought countless times and crawled out of the pile of corpses, yet none of the situations made him despair. He once firmly believed that there was always a way out. As long as he risked his life to fight, there would always be a chance for survival. However, at this moment, Wu Tong was a bit desperate because he found a serious problem. He seemed to have broken into a dragon's pool and tiger's den, provoking someone he couldn't afford to offend. There were 2 people in front and 1 on the roof. Just their appearance alone made him feel like he was trapped in the camp of thousands of soldiers and horses. What he couldn't accept the most was that these seemingly ordinary guys turned out to have a terrifying strength. Speed and strength. These were originally his advantages, but the opponent's crushing thunderous means made it difficult for him to breathe. You are Tan Xiu's men? Wu Tong wiped the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth as he vigilantly looked at the 2 people surrounding him and asked in a sharp voice. However, just as his voice faded away, his pupils suddenly shrunk as he looked at Mo, who was floating down from the roof. That's right, he floated down, defying scientific principles. It was as if he couldn't withstand the force of gravity. His feet stepped on the ground as if he was stepping on cotton. Mo indifferently looked at Wu Tong and lightly said, "Give up resisting if you don't want to suffer physical pain. Come with us." Wu Tong clenched his fists and asked, "Where are we going?" "To see our boss," said Mo. Wu Tong quickly grabbed 3 darts from his waist and coldly said, "Do you really have the confidence to make me stay here?" I'm sure you'll be buried with me if I risk my life to fight. Mo disdainfully glanced at him and lightly said, since you don't want to cooperate, then we can only resort to violence. Knock him out. I'm going to see the boss first. Having said that, under Wu Tong's angry eyes, he directly left. Bush. Two figures instantly pounced toward Wu Tong. Their speed was so fast that it was faintly visible to the naked eye. Wu Tong gritted his teeth and fiercely threw the darts in his hand. The ultimate dart skill was a killing move he was extremely confident in. He had never missed within 10 meters. Bang, bang, bang. The darts pierced through the afterimages, and two beast-like auras enveloped him. The terrifying speed and power were fully displayed by the two storm-like fists. Wu Tong had a feeling that he had become a human sandbag. He didn't have the slightest ability to resist. He could only feel his body constantly being hit and his injuries becoming more and more severe. He was in complete despair. He wanted to open his mouth and admit defeat, but his opponent's fist landed on his mouth, preventing him from making another sound. After more than 10 seconds, he lost consciousness in despair and fear and was knocked unconscious by a heavy punch. Inside the Paradise Manor's general manager's office, Tan Xiao was drinking hot tea while hugging Ouyang Lulu's soft body. His spiritual sense was released outside, watching the beating ladyboy Wu Tong. He was very surprised that Wu Tong, the inferior military monster from the underground fighting competition, would secretly follow him. Boss, there's a situation. Mo's voice came from outside the door. Tan Xiao patted Ouyang Lulu's thigh and said, bring her here directly. He's been following me for so long, I need to talk to him. Understood. Mo made a sound of assent and did not make another sound. Tan Xiao found that Ouyang Lulu didn't get up. Instead, she wrapped her arms around his neck with a unique feminine fragrance, like a lazy kitten nestling in his bosom. Suddenly, Tan Xiao was at a loss whether he had to cry or laugh. He then said, Lulu, there's a serious matter to deal with. Get up first. Ouyang Lulu acted like a spoiled child and said, he hasn't come yet. Nestling in your bosom is too comfortable, I really don't want to move. Dear, tell me, if we turn into fossils and keep this posture until the seas run dry and the rocks decay, how good would that be? If the feelings between two people can last for a long time, how could we stay together day and night? Tan Xiao said with a faint smile. Ouyang Lulu stared blankly and immediately kissed Tan Xiao's face. She then said with a charming smile, I never thought that such words would come out of your mouth. All right, then I'll watch from the side. After a short while, Mo carried the fainted she-male Wu Tong to the office. After receiving Tang Xiao's instructions, he woke Wu Tong up and immediately moved to the side. After Wu Tong sobered up, he quickly observed the surrounding environment and instantly judged that this was the place where Tan Xiao and the woman were. Tan Xiao took out a cigarette. Ouyang Lulu quickly grabbed the lighter and lit it for him. Tan Xiao took 2 puffs and then looked at Wu Tong, whose face was bruised and swollen, yet still looked vigilant. He then said with a faint smile, the second place of the National Underground Boxing Tournament, she-male Wu Tong. I'm very curious. What made you come here all of a sudden, stalking me and spying on me? Wu Tong deeply observed Tan Xiao. He had seen countless big bosses with deep backgrounds and amazing wealth. Those rich and powerful people also had many experts as their subordinates, but none of them could make him so afraid. However, no matter how he observed, he couldn't find anything special about Tan Xiao. Will you believe me if I say I'm curious? Wu Tong was silent for a while and then asked back. I don't believe you. Tan Xiao shook his head. Your current situation is not optimistic. I'm afraid that many rich and powerful people in China are now looking for you. Wu Tong disdainfully said, what ability do they have? Finding me is simply a dream. Confidence doesn't equal arrogance. It seems that you have enough confidence? Tan Xiao said. So, you noticed me because of Han Qingwu? Wu Tong nodded and said, that's right. Ice Phoenix is very strong. She's beyond the scope of my understanding of human force. After the underground boxing tournament ended a few days ago, I quietly followed you and left. However, There were some jumping clowns harassing me, so I had to temporarily hide after following you for a couple of hours. Later, when I came to Shanghai, I found that you have a deep relationship with Ice Phoenix. She went to work and got off work as usual, so I had a sudden idea to observe you. But I didn't expect that you're not an ordinary person. When did you start following me? Asked Tan Xiu. This afternoon. Wu Tong said. At noon? Tan Xiu slightly furrowed his brows as a glint flashed in his eyes. He first noticed Wu Tong when he was on his way to the Paradise Manor after dinner, but he didn't expect that this guy had been watching him since noon. It seemed that he was very good at tracking and hiding. Tan Xiu thought for a while and asked, "What's your purpose in following Han Qingwu and me?" "I want to know who's the master of this Han Qingwu you mentioned," said Wu Tong with all seriousness. "She's very young, so her master must be very powerful. I want to become stronger and take her as my master." Become stronger? Taking her as his master? Tan Xiu was surprised by his words. He carefully observed Wu Tong a few times before he shook his head and smilingly said, "You can't learn what she's learning. Your body has been damaged, so you can call it a minor disability. Therefore, I'm afraid your martial arts path can only end here if you don't have a great opportunity." "You mean?" Wu Tong lowered his head and then quickly looked up to meet Tan Xiu's eyes. "That's right." Tan Xiu nodded and said, "Your yang qi has been depleted, and your fake yin qi has been damaging your body all the time. Your essence, qi, and spirit have been consumed, and even your lifespan has been greatly shortened. You should be less than 40 years old now, but you've passed your peak state. I'm not afraid to divulge some secrets, but you only have 10 or 20 years to live at most. Take care of yourself. 10 or 20 years. Less than 60 years old?" Wu Tong's heart trembled and he glared at Tan Xiu. "You're just an alarmist." Tan Xiu shook his head and smilingly said, "I can't do anything about it if you really think I'm just an alarmist. Just leave. Wait until you calm down and think about it. Have you felt that your body is getting worse and worse in recent years? No matter how hard you try, you can't be compared to your peak state a few years ago. After thinking it through, find a comfortable place and prepare to die in retirement." Wu Tong's heart trembled. He didn't need to think about it to know that Tan Xiu was right. His condition had been getting worse and worse in recent years. Even the power he could unleash now was far from the time when he was on the verge of death a few years ago. Otherwise, he wouldn't have stayed abroad for more than 20 years and finally returned to China. He wouldn't have even participated in the underground fighting tournament. He wanted to return to his peak state and fight martial arts experts to sharpen himself. But the result was that his recovery speed was getting slower and slower, and his fighting power was getting worse and worse. "You? How did you judge it?" Wu Tong's expression kept changing and he finally asked with a dejected expression. "I forgot to introduce myself," said Tan Xiu with a smile. "Maybe you only know that I'm Tan Xiu, but you don't know one of my identities. I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, and people call me the young divine doctor." "Divine doctor?" Wu Tong's body shivered and he looked at Tan Xiu incredulously and exclaimed, "How is this possible? I know a bit about the situation in China's Chinese medicine field. How can someone become a divine doctor in his 20s? Even the former divine doctors Hua Tuo and Bian Ke couldn't do it, right? There's a saying that you should have heard before, that there's always someone better than you out there," said Tan Xiu confidently. "Others can't do it, but it doesn't mean that I can't." Wu Tong stared at Tan Xiu. After a long time, under the watchful eyes of Mo Ao and Ouyang Lulu, he knelt in front of Tan Xiu and begged, "Please save me, divine doctor." "You've been fooled by yourself?" Tan Xiu looked at Wu Tong with a strange expression and was at a loss whether he should cry or laugh. Although he was quite confident in his ability to treat and save people, it wasn't worth it for Wu Tong to do this, right? Tan Xiu waved his hand and a stream of qi wrapped around Wu Tong, pulling him up in an instant. Then he said, "I can't help you, so you should leave. But if you can find some herbs to nourish the yin and kidney in the future and recuperate for a long time, you can increase your lifespan. This martial art. I'll leave it at that." They did not have much contact with each other. Wei Guotao had pursued Chen Xiaowan for a long time but ultimately failed to win her heart. He came from a well-to-do family and was a little arrogant. In fact, it was because of this arrogance that Chen Xiaowan disliked back then. Today, Wei Guotao was already the owner of a textile factory. He could be considered to have inherited his father's business and was living a comfortable life. After experiencing the ups and downs of society, he had matured a lot, and his arrogance had also been smoothed out by the countless ups and downs in the world. In the past, he had pursued Chen Xiaowan but failed, leaving him brooding over it. Later on, he wanted to continue pursuing Chen Xiaowan, but he gave up the idea when he learned that she already had a boyfriend. What's more, with the wealth and status he had before, he had no shortage of women. However, seeing Chen Xiaowan again, the regret in his heart was evoked again. He looked at Chen Xiaowan, who had become a lot more mature and more beautiful than before. Even though he had been indulging in pleasure in the field of flowers in recent years, it was still difficult for him to calm down. Belchen, you must punish yourself with 3 cups of wine for being late. Even if you're the vice president of a big group, you can't be exempted from this custom. Fatty Wu Xiaoping from the class, eagerly pulled the chair next to Chen Xiaowan and cheerfully said, "I'm not a heroic man like you," said Chen Xiaowan with a smile. "I'm afraid I'll fall into Ji Jie's arms after drinking 3 cups of wine." Ji Jie, who sat next to her, got up and hugged Chen Xiaowan. After pulling Chen Xiaowan to sit down, Ji Jie giggled and said, "Get drunk and fall into my arms. This young lady will pamper you well. Go, go, go." Chen Xiaowan giggled. As the host of the party, Wei Guotao smilingly said, "Xiaowan, forget about punishing yourself with 3 cups of wine. But you must sing a song when we go to the entertainment club later. If I remember correctly, your beautiful voice attracted a lot of crazy bees and butterflies to pursue you when you were in school." Wei Guotao, among those crazy bees and butterflies, did you know that you were a bee? Or a butterfly? Wei Guotao's breath stagnated and he immediately scolded with a smile. "Fuck you, fatty. You're really touching my sore spot. Do you believe that I won't make you drunk first?" "Who's afraid of who?" Wu Xiaoping looked up and said, "Heh, I don't think 8 to 10 pounds is too much, and 2 to 3 pounds is not too little. I'll accompany you to the end as long as you dare to drink. It's not easy for me to pretend to be a man in front of Belchen, so I can't be a coward at this time." "Holy shit, you're shameless, fatty," Wei Guotao scolded with a smile. The joyful atmosphere was much better than the previous years. Chen Xiaowan didn't expect that no one would secretly compare and show off in this year's class reunion. Perhaps it was because they were much older, and everyone had matured a lot. The door of the fragrance hall was pushed open as a well-dressed and tall man walked in from the outside. His handsome face was ruined by the panda eye on his left side. "Hey, what's going on with Lu Bo?" Everyone in the fragrance hall looked confused, and Wei Guotao hurriedly got up and asked. Lu Bo was still fine when he went to the bathroom 7 minutes ago. How did he come back and look like this? Lu Bo's face was a bit gloomy, but he squeezed out a smile and said, "I bumped into 2 drunken bastards. They bumped into me and even shouted at me. But I didn't suffer any loss." Everyone looked at each other in dismay. They didn't expect that Lu Bo would be so unlucky to bump into a drunken guest and even fight with them. Wei Guotao greeted Lu Bo and asked, "Are you all right? Do you want me to send you to the hospital?" "No need." Lu Bo shook his head. "What's the origin of those 2 guys?" asked Wei Guotao. "How about we find them to settle the account?" No need, said Lu Bo quickly. "I've already cleaned them up. I believe their companions have sent them to the hospital. Anyways, it's not easy for us to get together today. Don't let this trivial matter dampen our mood. Come on, let's toast." Wei Guotao slightly furrowed his brows. He could faintly see a trace of panic in Lu Bo's eyes and immediately became vigilant. He knew Lu Bo's character. This guy had always been steady and didn't particularly care about his face. The only shortcoming he had was that he was a bit timid. Could it be that there's a follow-up to this matter? Wei Guotao thought about it and suddenly glanced at Chen Xiaowan, who was holding her glass with everyone else. Seeing Chen Xiaowan again made his heart lively again. He knew that Chen Xiaowan had broken up with her boyfriend, and he himself was single. Although he was involved with many women, those women were only interested in his money, and he had no feelings for them. If he could pursue Chen Xiaowan, he would be very willing to get rid of those women, marry a wife, and have children, and live a stable life. The glass of wine was finished. Wei Guotao pondered for a while before he got up and came to Chen Xiaowan's side. He then leaned over and whispered, "Chen Xiaowan, come out." Chen Xiaowan stared blankly for a moment. She looked at Wu Xiaoping and Ji Jie on both sides and found that they were winking and teasing her. She immediately rolled her eyes at them and followed Wei Guotao out of the fragrance hall. Do you need something?" As they came to the corridor outside, Chen Xiaowan looked at the other end of the corridor, where 7 or 8 men were aggressively walking toward them. She slightly furrowed her brows. Wei Guotao also saw this group of people. He instantly realized that they should be coming for Lu Bo. It was because the 2 men in the lead had swollen noses and swollen faces. It was obvious that they had just been beaten. "Xiaowan, this is my car key. My car is parked in the parking lot outside. Help me get 2 bottles of good wine from the trunk." Wei Guotao took out the car key and stuffed it into Chen Xiaowan's hand. Chen Xiaowan was somewhat at a loss. She didn't expect that Wei Guotao would call her out for this matter. Originally, she still had a good impression of Wei Guotao. After all, he was a handsome man. Although he was a bit flamboyant in the past, he had never done anything too outrageous, nor did he put on airs and flaunt his achievements in front of a group of classmates. But at this time, a sense of disgust was birthed inside her heart. Why should I go and get things for him? Just because he's a small boss and I'm just an office worker? Chen Xiaowan's expression was a bit unsightly, but she still took the car key. She rarely refused others, so she had already made up her mind to find an excuse to leave after getting the 2 bottles of wine. Wei Guotao was a shrewd man. He could tell from Chen Xiaowan's sudden change in expression that she had misunderstood him. But now was not the time to explain, so after watching Chen Xiaowan leave, he immediately rushed back to the fragrance hall and closed the door from the inside. Then he shouted, "Everyone, please be quiet. There's an emergency, so please be prepared. Lu Bo, the 2 people who fought with you before are probably coming with their men." What? Lu Bo's expression turned extremely unsightly in an instant, and the faces of more than 20 students in the hall also changed. Living in a society ruled by law, they rarely encountered violence. They were afraid of being implicated if a fight broke out. Wei Guotao glanced at everyone and sighed inwardly. He had experienced a lot of things and encountered sudden violence many times. He had once hunted in nightclubs and fought with others several times. Due to his previous experience, his mood was still stable. He came to the corner and pressed the pager in the hall to call the waiter to inform the security guards. "I recently downloaded Qidian's writer's assistant, and my phone often receives all kinds of comments, votes, and gifts from everyone. I feel warm inside having everyone's support. I sincerely thank all my brothers and sisters for your support. I'll definitely work hard to write and live up to everyone's support." Chapter 7:15. Knock, knock. The fragrance hall's door was knocked. Tan Xiao and Ouyang Lulu opened the door. Just as they entered, they saw more than 20 young men and women standing up and glaring at them with hostility. "What's going on?" Tan Xiao and Ouyang Lulu exchanged glances. The strange reaction of the people in the room puzzled them. Everyone in the room was slightly stunned when they saw Tan Xiao and Ouyang Lulu. Wei Guotao looked at Ouyang Lulu in amazement before his eyes fell on Tan Xiao and asked, "Who are you?" Tan Xiao glanced at everyone but didn't see Chen Xiaowan. He immediately asked with a puzzled expression, "Did we go to the wrong hall? Sis Xiaowan clearly said this is the fragrance hall, right? Are you guys having a class reunion? Where's Chen Xiaowan? Are you looking for Chen Xiaowan?" Wei Guotao was surprised. "I'm Chen Xiaowan's younger brother." Tan Xiao nodded and said, "I heard you're having a class reunion here, so I came to deliver 2 bottles of wine." This time, everyone in the hall looked at each other in dismay. They thought it was Lu Bo's people who came to retaliate, but they didn't expect it to be Chen Xiaowan's younger brother. Wei Guotao had his own plan in mind, so he immediately said, "Little brother, Qin Shaowan went out to do something and will come back later. Why don't you leave first and wait for her to come back? I'll ask her to contact you again. Sending guests away? Tan Xiao seemed to realize something. He turned his head to look at the 7 or 8 people who had already walked out of the door. The 2 men in the front were cursing and swearing, and then he looked at the vigilant people in the room. He suddenly couldn't help laughing and said, "Did you guys have some conflict with them?" Wei Guotao, Lu Bo, and the others didn't speak, but some of the more courageous men took 2 steps forward and blocked the 6 or 7 women behind them. Wow, there are quite a lot of people here. The badly battered Bai Sheng staggered into the room. When he looked around and found Lu Bo, he immediately roared, "Damn bastard! Luckily I followed you secretly and knew you were in this hall, else you would have been able to hide from me. The person who dares to hit me hasn't even been born yet, but you've already jumped out of your mother's womb. Today, I'll definitely beat you back into your mother's womb." Saying, Bai Sheng raised the bottle in his hand and was about to smash it at Lu Bo. "Stop." Tan Xiao frowned and scolded in a deep voice. At the same time, he instantly moved toward Bai Sheng. Before Bai Sheng could smash the bottle, he had already grabbed Bai Sheng's wrist. This is paradise manner. Think about the consequences before you cause trouble. Bai Sheng scolded angrily, "Where did you come from? Whether I cause trouble or not has nothing to do with you." Pa! A loud slap sounded. Ouyang Lulu lifted her leg and kicked Bai Sheng's chest. Bai Sheng was not tall and his body was not very strong, but Ouyang Lulu's kick made him retreat a few steps and hit the 2 people behind him. "You can curse me, but if you dare to curse him again, believe it or not, I'll break your legs and tie you like a dog at the entrance of my paradise manor." Ouyang Lulu angrily shouted. Bai Sheng was kicked in the chest. The huge force made him suffocate. He clearly saw Ouyang Lulu's appearance, but never in his wildest dreams had he ever imagined that a woman more beautiful than a fairy would actually attack him. Not only that, she was even trying to stand up for another man and threaten him. "You," Bai Sheng wanted to curse, but a middle-aged man beside him pulled him. The middle-aged man indifferently looked at Ouyang Lulu and said, "Listening to your words, you're from this paradise manor?" "Yeah, I'm the paradise manor's boss," said Ouyang Lulu coldly. "Boss?" The middle-aged man stared blankly and suddenly realized something. His complexion greatly changed and his attitude changed 180 degrees. He nodded and bowed as he said with an obsequious smile, "Ah, so you're Miss Ouyang. It's all my friend's fault for having eyes but failing to recognize empty tie and unexpectedly bumped into you. A few days ago, I heard from my friend that you have a deep relationship with Mr. Tang, so I brought this friend from Fukang to support you. Miss Ouyang, for the sake of Mr. Tang's face, please don't." Suddenly, his words came to an abrupt halt as he suddenly thought of Tang Xiao, who was standing beside Ouyang Lulu. His expression froze and his mouth opened wide, but he could no longer utter a sound. "It seems that my face is quite big to have you bring someone to support me," said Tan Xiao with a sneer. "I'd like to know who that friend of yours is." Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man's heart felt as though it had fallen into an ice cave. He never thought that the person who was cursed by his companion turned out to be Tan Xiao. Although it was his first time seeing Tan Xiao, his name was like a thunderclap reverberating in his ears. You're Tan Xiao, Mr. Tang?" "That's me." Tan Xiao nodded indifferently. The middle-aged man squeezed out a smile as his lips squirmed and said, "My friend is Jin Xinkue, and we have a client relationship. He bought the stone materials for his recent project from me. Mr. Tang, my friend just bumped into you. I hope you can be magnanimous and not stoop to his level." Tan Xiao looked at the middle-aged man with a strange expression. He didn't expect that this guy turned out to be a business friend of Jin Xinkue. He also had a share in Jin Xinkue's business, so he also had a business relationship with him. Finally able to catch his breath, Bai Sheng wanted to flip out again. After all, he was beaten in front of so many people. Moreover, it was a beautiful and dazzling woman, which made him feel ashamed. But upon hearing his companion mention Tan Xiao's name, his body couldn't help but shiver and his drunkenness faded a lot. Are you really Tan Xiao? Tan Xiao of the Tang family?" Bai Xing's attitude also changed dramatically as he asked cautiously, "Do you know me?" Tan Xiu frowned. Bai Xing's heart thumped and he nearly cried. He was not afraid of the heavens or the earth. He didn't even care about the elders in his family, but he was afraid of a ruthless man. This man was Tan Xiu of the Tang family in the imperial capital. "Mr. Tang, I'm really sorry. I didn't know that the boss here has a close relationship with you. I'm blind and didn't recognize you. I'm Bai Xing of the Bai family, Fukang province." Tan Xiu frowned and asked, "Who is Bai Yang to you?" "He's the Bai family's patriarch. I should call him uncle according to seniority," said Bai Sheng. "I know a bit about the Bai family," Tan Xiu nodded and said, "whether it's Bai Yang or the other members of the Bai family, they are all very low-key. I didn't expect that they would have such an unusual person like you. Hurry up and go back to Fukang province. Don't cause trouble for your family outside in the future." Bai Xing wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and hurriedly nodded. Yes. You're right. I'll definitely correct myself later. If you don't have any other instructions, then I'll take my leave first. I'll go back to Fukang province early tomorrow morning." Having said that, the group of people who came with a menacing aura now left quickly with fear and trepidation. The more than 20 people in the fragrance hall were even more dumbfounded. They were so shocked by the series of changes that they couldn't even close their mouths. Tan Xiu turned around and glanced at Wei Guotao and the others. A smile appeared on his face again as he said, "I'm sorry. You've been harassed while dining in our paradise manor. These 2 bottles of wine are for everyone to taste. We still have something to do, so we can't accompany you." God's nectar? Among the more than 20 people, at least a dozen of them knew about wine. They had even seen the packaging of wine, and the highest grade one was God's nectar. They secretly exclaimed inwardly. They didn't expect that the 2 bottles of wine sent by Tan Xiu turned out to be God's nectar. It must be noted that God's nectar was very expensive, with each bottle being sold at 18,888 yuan in exclusive stores. But in private, they heard that many people were willing to buy it at double the price. Good wine was scarce. This was the characteristic of God's nectar. "Mr. Tang, please wait a moment," Wei Guotao quickly called out. "Thank you very much. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we would have been beaten." "Don't worry," Tan Xiu said with a smile. "We'll guarantee your safety since you chose to dine in the paradise manor." Wei Guotao nodded with a smile. Then, he hesitantly pointed to the 2 bottles of God's nectar on the table and said, "We appreciate your kindness, Mr. Tang. But this wine is too precious." Tan Xiu waved his hand and smilingly said, "It's just wine. How precious is it?" "Huh? You're here, brother? Lu, you're here too." At the fragrance hall's door, Chen Xiaowan came inside empty-handed. She originally looked a bit angry, but after seeing Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lulu, the anger on her face immediately disappeared. Ouyang Lulu quickly greeted them and intimately held Chen Xiaowan's arm and said, "Sis Xiaowan, I just learned that you and your classmates are having a party here. Else I would have told the people below to prepare the best room for you." Chen Xiaowan was a bit embarrassed and whispered, "Lulu, there's no need to be so polite between us. It's good for us to have a party here." "Sis Xiaowan, whatever you think is good is good." Ouyang Lulu smilingly said, "In any case, just treat it as your own home since you're here. Count this meal as my treat today. Have a good meal and drink well. I'll pay for all your expenses here today." "Don't, then it's decided. Else I'll be cursed to death by this little brother of yours." Ouyang Lulu interrupted Chen Xiaowan and smilingly said. Tan Xiu couldn't help laughing and said, "Sis Xiaowan, since Lulu wants to pay for it, just let her be. All right, we won't disturb your dinner. Call me when you're done here and I'll send you back." After a while, Tan Xiu and Ouyang Lulu left, leaving only Chen Xiaowan's group of classmates in the fragrance hall. Just as Chen Xiaowan threw Wei Guotao's car key to him, the voices of her classmates rang one after another. "Awesome! Xiaowan's little brother is really amazing! Awesome! Those guys seem to be so scared that they almost wet their pants. What a nouveau riche! Tan Xiu is really cool. Idol. It would be great if I had such a little brother." Chapter 716. Tan Xiao didn't take Ouyang Lulu's money, not because he was a male chauvinist, but because he really didn't need it. Unless Ouyang Lulu could give him billions or even hundreds of billions, he might be able to solve the problem of being short of money for a long time in the future. After chatting for a while, Tan Xiao received a call from Chen Xiaowan. 10 o'clock in the evening. Tan Xiao sent Chen Xiaowan back to the Bishan Lake complex where she lived. Only after her figure disappeared at the entrance of the building did Tan Xiao start the car again. Afterward, he went to the Thompson Villa complex and contacted Shui Yu by phone. He learned that she hadn't rested yet, so he went to the villa. He changed his slippers and took off his coat. Tan Xiao sat on the sofa in the living room and looked at Shui Yu, who was wearing pajamas with her long hair draped over her shoulders, and asked, "Do you have enough money?" For the time being, Shui Yu nodded. Tan Xiao took out his mobile and transferred 10 million yuan to the bank card he gave to Shui Yu before. Then he said, "I don't have much money recently, so you have to save your money. I just transferred 10 million to the bank card, so I only have 2 million left." "What happened?" asked Shui Yu curiously. "It's nothing." Tan Xiao shook his head and said, "It's just that the business is a bit big and the amount of money invested in the early stage is a bit too much. Maybe it won't be a problem after a year and a half." Shui Yu nodded without a word and accompanied Tan Xiao for a while. Then she hurriedly went to the kitchen, put on a new apron, and cooked her signature medicinal cuisine before returning to the living room. "Do you have time tomorrow? Is there something?" Shui Yu nodded and said, "Actually, I would have contacted you tomorrow even if you didn't come tonight. I found a singular recherche fruit in the medicinal herbs market yesterday afternoon, but the price is too high and I don't have enough money." Singular recherche fruit? Even though Tan Xiao had read a lot of books and memorized thousands of Chinese medicinal herbs, he had never heard of this name. The singular recherche fruit is a kind of spirit fruit that grows in a special area in the Miao region. It's very precious and rare. When I was a child, I heard that my ancestor got 2 singular recherche fruits, which can be used to treat some blood viruses. In addition, it also had a very magical effect on some cultivators from the strange door. I'm not sure about the specific effects. Tan Xiao asked, "What's the price of the singular recherche fruit you found in the medicinal herbs market?" "The shop owner mistook the singular relic fruit for the hoarfrost fruit," said Shui Yu with a smile. "The value of the hoarfrost fruit is also very high. What the boss doesn't know is that if someone with a discerning eye recognizes that it's a singular recherche fruit, they will rush to buy it even if it costs hundreds of millions." Tan Xiao asked in a daze, "You know Chinese herbal medicine?" "We're from the Miao region, so we know more or less about it," said Shui Yu with a smile. "As for me, I've been learning from my grandfather and ancestors since I was young. Even though my medical skills aren't that great, I can still treat common illnesses that are difficult to treat. 4 years ago, there was a medical book published in the field of traditional Chinese medicine, Miscellaneous Diseases of All Families. Part of it was edited by me." Tan Xiao's eyes lit up. He suddenly became interested and asked, "I suddenly feel that there is a business that is very suitable for you to do. Also, if you do it well, you should be able to make a lot of money." "What kind of business?" asked Shui Yu with a smile. "A fine medicinal herbs dealer," answered Tan Xiao. "What do you mean?" asked Shui Yu, confused. "As far as I know, there are large Chinese herbal medicine markets in major cities in China, including 2nd and 3rd-tier cities," said Tan Xiao. "Some precious herbs are mixed with a large number of common herbs in these markets. I once found some very precious herbs from the common herb stalls." "You mean picking up scraps?" asked Shui Yu in surprise. "You can say that." Tan Xiao nodded with a smile. "But your strength alone is limited after all. You can hire some people to help you find them. It's best if you can give them short-term training so that they can memorize the names, effects, and shapes of the herbs. They can also send you pictures or videos when they buy them and let you appraise them temporarily. As for whether to buy them or not, you can also control them from a distance." Shui Yu's eyes lit up. Through Tan Xiao's explanation, she found that this was indeed a good way to make money. The most important thing was that even if she made less money, she could buy precious herbs and keep them for her own use. I'll give it a try. Tan Xiu said with a smile, it's up to you how to do it. I'll give you another sum of money within half a month. You don't need to feel any pressure, just think of it as finding something to do. You don't need to give me any more money. Shui Yu gently shook her head. The 10 million you just transferred to me should be enough. Tan Xiu didn't speak again. He took out his mobile phone and searched for Li Juren's number. He silently stared at it for several minutes, but ultimately didn't call him. He could indeed refine pills that could increase one's lifespan, but it was not easy to get all the medicinal herbs. Although he could still refine a few life essence pills from the batch of medicinal herbs that Li Juren sent last time, he didn't know the price. What are you thinking about? Asked Shui Yu as she untied her apron and sat next to Tan Xiu. Tan Xiu looked up and asked, if there's a pill that can increase the lifespan of the elderly by 3 to 5 years, what price do you think it can be sold for? How many of these pills are there? Asked Shui Yu. Very few, answered Tan Xiu. I can only refine 10 in a short time. That's already the limit. Shui Yu thought for a long time and then slowly said, the rarer something is, the more precious it is. Nowadays, whether it's at home or abroad, many rich and powerful people in the truest sense have people whose lives are in danger. Even if they can live for 3 more years, I'm afraid they will spend a lot of money. What's the specific price? Asked Tan Xiu as he raised his brows. Tentatively set it at 500 million for one. It should be no problem, said Shui Yu with all seriousness. 500 million? Tan Xiu took a deep breath, took out his mobile again and dialed Li Juren's number. Soon after, Li Juren's hearty laughter came from the phone. Tan Xiu, I'm glad to receive your call. I'm looking for you for something, said Tan Xiu. You know about the life essence pill. If I want to sell you 10 life essence pills at 500 million each, would you buy them? I'll buy them, said Li Juren decisively. I'll bring 10 life essence pills to Jingmen Island within half a month, said Tan Xiu. If you're sure to buy them, then come to Jingmen Island's everlasting feast hall. As for whether you'll buy them for yourself or sell them to others, that's your business. 500 million is a very affordable price, said Li Juren with a happy tone. I'll personally go to Jingmen Island and wait for your call. All right, Tan Xiu replied and directly hung up the phone. Shui Yu had just heard the conversation between Tan Xiu and Li Juren. Although she was very indifferent to money, Tan Xiu's phone call and 10 life essence pills that could be sold at a sky-high price of 5 billion yuan still made her feel a sense of worship from the bottom of her heart. Martial prowess, talent, morality, and making money. Shui Yu analyzed these 4 characteristics inwardly and repeatedly pondered over them. She was sure that Tan Xiu had all these characteristics and was very outstanding. Are you going to concoct some pills next? Tan Xiu nodded and said, I'll go with you to the medicinal herbs market tomorrow and buy some medicinal herbs on the way. When will the medicated diet be ready? I need to go back early after drinking it. Shui Yu stared blankly for a moment and then immediately said, Don't go tonight. Tan Xiu shot her a deep look and shook his head. There are some things that I can't rush. Maybe I'll have something to do soon. Sure enough. As the medicated diet was cooked, Tang Xiu had yet to finish it when Mo called him and informed him that the military and Austin Cole's group from the SOE company had a fierce battle near Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals in the Serene Peace District. The military didn't suffer heavy losses, but Austin Cole was injured and 7 or 8 of his men died in the fierce battle. Boss, 2 people suddenly appeared at the end of the fierce battle. They are very strong, almost reaching the level of martial arts grandmaster. After severely wounding several military experts, they left with Austin Cole. They're retreating in the direction of Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals. What did Mouse say? Asked Tan Xiu with a deep frown. Mouse has sent some people to investigate, but there's no result for the time being because the other party retreated too fast, said Mo. However, the 2 of them were wearing armor and left some traces behind when they left. They were right outside the walls of Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals. Tan Xiu took a deep breath and said, I'll rush over there immediately. Don't act rashly before I arrive. After hanging up the phone, Tan Xiu got up and picked up his coat. He looked at Shui Yu, who wanted to say something but hesitated. Then he said, I really have something to do today. I'll come to you tomorrow after I'm done with it. Pay attention to your safety, said Shuiyu quickly. All right. Tan Xiu replied and left at the fastest speed. It was already 1 a.m. when he arrived at Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals. Although he had expected that this place wouldn't be peaceful, he still frowned after seeing a large number of policemen and armed police cordoning off the nearby area. Boss! In a dark corner of the street corner, Mouse stealthily appeared and shouted while controlling his volume. Then he saw Tan Xiu rushing over with Mo's group. You're finally here, boss. How's the situation? Asked Tan Xiu. Have you found out the origin of those two men who appeared later? I can't be 100% sure, said Mouse hesitantly. But they should be Xie Jiqiang's men according to the traces they left and my many years of experience. Also, after they rescued Austin Cole, they should have fled to Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals. Tan Xiu pondered for a moment before he looked at Mouse and asked, Then, according to your experience, when will the policemen who cordoned off the scene of the fierce battle withdraw? Most of them will withdraw within 2 hours, said Mouse. But they will still leave some people to monitor the nearby area. A cold light flashed in Tan Xiu's eyes as he said in a deep voice, Mouse, notify your men to evacuate. All will break into this Koenigsha Pharmaceuticals at 3 a.m. Quiet Night plans to go crazy in the last 2 days. The specific amount depends on the number of monthly votes as well as Quiet Night's writing status. Brothers and sisters, let's go _. That you're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.